This is the MeatEater podcast coming at you shirtless, severely bug-bitten, and in my case, underwearless.
We hunt the MeatEater podcast.
You can't predict anything.
The MeatEater podcast is brought to you by First Light. Whether you're checking trail cams, hanging deer stands, or scouting for elk, First Light has performance apparel to support every hunter in every environment. Check it out at firstlight.com. FIRSTLITE.com. All right, we got more women in here than normal. By a long. Normally it's just Corinne. Everybody knows how lame that is. Today we're joined by, probably for the millionth time, Carmen Vanbianchi. How many times have you been on the show?
Maybe this is number 5.
Oh,
maybe?
okay. She's our resident wildlife biologist. We've tracked Carmen all through her career. Now she's a Lynx researcher from Home Range. You guys founded Home Range
Wildlife Research. Yep.
You know, we've participated in all kinds of projects. Trying to raise awareness for your project. We did that thing trying to raise up money for snowmobiles.
Yep.
And now you're back to give us a report
Yep.
on what's going on.
Yep.
Now we've been doing a little trapping, but different.
Yeah. You got some beavers?
Today we caught a raccoon the likes of which man has never seen. I don't know what he's doing out in that cold weather too.
I don't know. He's just, typically he'd be in a den tree somewhere, but he was out and about last night.
There's a spot by this rancher's place, and there's a hole in the fence where coyotes are coming through, and that raccoon coming through there. Hang tight a minute, guys. I'm going to tell you something before I introduce all of our other women. This rancher's telling us how, so we get down there by the river by his place, down the river bottom, and there's dead sheep carcasses. You can't even tell what's going on. It's just dead sheep. Get to talking to him, and in the fall, they had a black bear, and it's kind of an unusual spot for black bear. They had a black bear come in, killed. He kept saying the bear killed 5 bucks. Okay. I was like, how do you know how many bucks the bear? I thought he meant like deer. Then I realized he's talking about buck sheep. These things are $1,500 a piece. Killed 5 buck sheep, killed a goat, killed a goose. He calls Fish and Game. They're like, if you catch the bear, go ahead and shoot it. So he tells us if we see the bear to shoot it. And you can see his track in the ice. Like he'd been walking on a slough since it froze up. Then he says there's this dude he knows that tries to build stuff out of driftwood. And that guy's sniffing around this big driftwood pile down on the bank. And he finds the bear hiding in the driftwood pile the other day. So he tells me and Seth to go in there and look in that driftwood pile. And we haven't gone and looked yet. And he told me, I'm scared to go look in there. But if you guys go look in there, then I'll call Fish and Game and you can get the bear. And I'm like, I think I'm going to have to personally speak with Fish and Game. I'm going to have to have a personal conversation with Fish and Game before I follow through with this plan. Looking through this. But we looked at that log jam today, talked about having to look down in there.
Yeah.
And?
We haven't gone down there and looked yet.
Oh.
We were 100 yards from it.
But when you say hidden in there, you mean like denned
up in there.
Yeah.
It's denned up in that log jam.
He's sleeping.
I know.
Go
And
ahead.
how do you know what bear's what? That's what I'm saying. It's like we're not going to get into that vigilante justice, but I am going to go look into that log jam.
I can't believe
Unarmed.
you didn't get curious enough to go look in there.
I'm going to look. I'm looking tomorrow.
We wouldn't be here right now if we got to looking in there, I think.
Yeah, we were already half hour late. If we'd been looking in there, you might not ever heard from us again.
We were crunched for time.
I couldn't decide if I was going to put a thermal in there, but I don't think that's going to work. I'm just going to shine a light in there and see if he's in there. Because I guess it scared the hell out of this driftwood guy.
Well, I can imagine, man.
Because it was awake in there. Yeah, so I'm going to see. If he is, well, it's kind of a weird little spot. I don't know how much I believe it. Could all be myth. Seth's here. Dr. Randall's here. Jen Lewis from FHF is here. And Jen Lewis's daughter, Brooklyn Stevens, is here. And Brody Henderson. Now, Brooklyn's here for a very special reason because you have recently got yourself into the skull cleaning business.
Yep.
How many skulls did you clean this year?
Probably around 20 or 30.
Are you serious? You did that many?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Dang.
Huh. You got interested in How old are you, first off?
17.
17. What got you interested in taxidermy?
When I shot my first deer, I walked into the taxidermy shop and it just felt like home. I like creating or like saving other people's memories, so I thought it'd be fun.
Oh, wow. And what'd you have done with your first deer?
Just a European mount.
Oh, and then you got it back and thought I could do that better.
Yep.
What are how are you cleaning them?
I just boil them and then bleach them.
Okay.
Yep.
And then, but you didn't. But here's why it was such a careful job he did, because the sinuses are still good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I usually wind up taking a drill bit and just like I get a little burned out on the whole thing, and eventually I wind up running a drill up in there to get all that garbage out of there. Can I see that again? The job you did. So Brooklyn's holding a buck that I brought to her this year. Old warrior, a little warrior. He broke his beam off. So how'd you get that so clean boiling it? What'd you do to eventually get it out of there?
I sit with it for hours and hours, and I just pick on it with dental picks.
That's what you're using?
Yep.
Do you do any pressure washing?
Every now and then, yeah. I try and pick off all the meat, though. It
Really?
looks nicer, yep.
What grade are you in?
Senior in high school.
You're a senior in high school? What are you going to do when you finish high school?
Taxidermy.
You want to go into taxidermy?
Yep.
How much you charging for a skull like that?
$120 for deer and $160 for elk.
Looks amazing.
Thank you.
That's a good price.
Looks
Yeah.
real
See,
good.
you're gonna think I'm lying if I told you I've never seen a like a boiled skull turn out like that.
Really?
Never. Brody,
It's good. It's great.
I'm bringing Brody.
I'm a little hurt.
Yeah, I was gonna-
but
I'm bringing Brody in this because Brody boils up some skulls. But that's a work of art, Brody.
yeah, it's really white. Looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
I
you
did
didn't- and you
like
didn't get the-
16 this year, and that,
You did?
I went 4 or 5 past my limit of patience.
You know,
Brody,
you're
do
not
you-
an aspiring skull cleaner.
No.
You're not an aspiring
Do you
taxidermy.
pressure wash yours?
I have, man, but I've seen that blow them apart,
Yeah.
especially like after they've been like if you really got to boil them for a while.
So you pick all the meat too.
yeah, but I mean, like she was saying, it's really just the nooks and crannies. You do it the right way.
I have currently 2 deer skulls sitting in my garage. One that my wife killed, one that I killed, and it's like gotten to the point where all the shit is like dried on there.
Mhm.
It'll never look right.
Yeah.
Brooklyn, are people bringing you these with the hide on them, or are they skinning them?
That's what I was
Both.
going to ask.
You charge-
Do you think the ones? Do you think they turn out better when they're unskinned or they've been skinned?
It depends. The ones that are unskinned do come out a
I
little
think
bit
they
better.
clean up better.
But the ones
Yeah.
that are skinned, I can get to
Yeah.
look good too.
She just did a big ram, a big deadhead ram.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's cool.
From where?
I don't know. The lady bought it from the FWP
From
auction.
the she bought it at the auction.
Yep. Yeah.
Huh? And brought it to you.
Yeah.
What condition was it in?
Turkey. The hide. It was
Really all
not-
dried out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so you'll mess around with dried out stuff. That's not
Oh, yeah.
ideal.
Do you charge more if they don't skin it?
You're in luck,
I
Seth.
might be
No,
giving you some
because it takes
business.
me no time to skin something. So
See, I always think I'm doing people a favor when I skin it and pluck the eyes out.
it's nice, but
Okay.
I don't mind skinning.
So they'll bring you a hair on head, lower jaw there, eyes there, all desiccated, dried
Yeah.
out, and you charge them the same amount of money.
Yeah.
Do you have a page set up for your business?
No, I just have Instagram and the Gmail.
Yeah. How do people find you to bring you some business? So folks that are listening, Jen Lewis and Paul Lewis. Paul Lewis has been on the podcast a number of times from FHF, and this is their youngster. So how do people find your business?
Either on Instagram or word of mouth.
No, but how what do they type up?
406 Boneworks.
406 Boneworks. You
Yeah.
ever think about getting a beetle room?
No, I don't want to mess with beetles.
That's a smelly business
Ooh,
right there.
That's
man.
what I want to get into.
You'd have to get your own house probably if you're gonna get into the beetle business,
Yeah.
because man, that
Yeah.
is a smelly business.
I looked
Yeah.
into it. You can order those beetles from Amazon.
Yeah, I looked
Yeah.
at
You can,
that
find,
too.
you can find them on the roadside. I didn't know that Amazon sold them, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
can find them on the roadside. So you're gonna stay with boiling,
Yeah.
but you're gonna go to taxidermy school.
I don't know. I like YouTube. I
Oh,
find
you like doing it
everything
that way?
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
YouTube University.
Yeah.
Are you going to get into like shoulder mounts? Or?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
So you're going all in.
Yeah.
So 406 Boneworks.
Yep.
and you'll clean people's skulls and do that immaculate. Did you do that nice job because you knew you were gonna use it as a piece of sales, and
No.
normally you just brutalize them?
Nope. That's how they all turn out.
They all turn out that nice.
Yep.
All right,
It's impressive.
That is impressive.
$120.
Yep.
That's a deal.
Have you done any elk?
Yeah.
What do you get for an elk?
160.
Only $40 more. It's 3
Yeah.
times as big.
Sorta. I don't like to think so though.
How did you come up with your pricing strategy?
Just what propane costs and the amount of bleach and then my time.
How much are you making any money after all that?
A little bit.
Did you ever calculate what you make per hour?
No.
Do you want to, or do you not even want to know?
I don't really want to know.
That's a pretty good skull. Now listen, I had a guy. You know what I paid this year? I hesitate to tell you. You know what I paid this year to get a moose cleaned?
What's that?
Take a guess.
Probably 225.
Higher.
That would have been nice.
$325,
Higher.
$425,
Higher.
Oh my God.
$975.
Lower. Listen, I had someone do a moose skull this year. $600. Kylie dropped it off, and I come back and there's an invoice for $600 on my desk. I'm like, I think they.
No, I dropped it off.
Oh, you dropped it off.
Yeah.
I talked to your
I
text and
saw
everybody. I talked to your text and everybody. Mine said, "Dude, you're third the way to his shoulder mount."
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the invoice when I dropped it off because he gave it to me, and I was like, "Ugh."
Never seen anything like that.
That was a big moose.
Yeah, I was
though.
like, I'm
A huge
assuming
freaking moose,
Steve
but
knows.
you're not cleaning the antlers.
I think I saw you that day
Yeah,
because you were at the shop and
He had
saw
he had a
Brooklyn's
shell-shocked
work.
look about him.
yeah. I just assumed
Looked like his ma died.
you knew what it was going to cost.
No. How much would you done that for? The problem with those is the way they're shaped. You can't dip them in
Yeah.
a tank real good.
Yeah.
It's a whole
Probably
different process.
300.
You'd have done it for 3. I could have got 2 done.
Yeah.
What's it called again? 406 Boneworks?
Yep.
406 Boneworks to get your skulls cleaned. You gonna do it next year too?
Yep.
All right. Thanks for coming on and plugging the biz.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be in school right now.
I am.
You're gonna hang tight though?
Yeah.
All right. She's a lynx researcher. Maybe you can fill out when your taxidermy's slow, you can go chase lynx on a snowmobile for these guys.
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right. Oh, you know what we were talking about today? Me and Seth had to drive on icy roads, and I was remembering this story I was telling them is we're talking about when it's real icy and you go to pass somebody, how you're endangering everybody. I remember when I was a kid. I remember this so vividly when I was a kid. We're driving down the road, and this dude comes by in one of those wood-paneled station wagons with a cowboy hat on, and kind of like blows past us in the way that made my dad irate, you know. And then we come around a few bends, and there's this dude's car wrecked, and he's standing out in the snow staring at his wrecked car. And Seth was saying he had a guy blow past him, and later found him up front and crashed.
We did the same thing going up to Snow Bowl. These kids in the car behind us passed, and I was just gripping the steering wheel and clenching my teeth for 5 minutes after that. We get up to the top, and they're in the ditch.
I have two separate occasions while I was heading to a hunting spot. One this year and one a couple years ago. I've had Ryan Callahan pass me on shitty roads. It's the same situation, but I haven't found him in a ditch. But I've had him pass me on bad roads.
Wait till you do. It's all worth it then.
Especially if you're heading to the same trailhead.
One
you
was
get
this
there
year
first.
in the dark. He passed me on a normal road, hauling a trailer.
Kale.
Yeah, I
Haul
called
the trailer.
I called him. I said, "You're going to end up in the ditch."
He doesn't seem like a reckless person.
He's just confident on snowy roads, I guess.
So Jen Lewis, you just handed me, I'm not going to tell anybody what you just handed me, but you handed me a new backpack
I did.
that you're working on.
Mhm.
That I can put my,
I'm not working on it.
that y'all,
Paul's definitely working on
Paul's
it.
working on. You guys invented the world's greatest duffel bag, which is not available
You
yet.
like that?
What's that called?
The pit duffle.
Dude, that is the best. Like, I'm sort of a duffel bag connoisseur.
Yeah.
That is I used to think that the best duffel bag ever made, Patagonia had one called the Shuttle Duffel. I have one. After they quit making it a million years ago, I used to go now and then on eBay trying to find a used one is how much I liked it.
Yeah.
This is the new best duffel bag.
It's pretty sweet. I think you got the new one with the new fabric,
Yeah.
sailcloth, which is
Is that what
same-
that's called?
Yeah, it's the same fabric that they make sailboat sails out of.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So highly durable.
Yeah, Paul was messing around with different ones over
Yeah.
time. He
Yeah.
gave me one, and the baggage handlers would ruin them.
Yeah. I think
So then
that's the whole reason.
I'd send it back to him and be like, no, baggage handlers ruined it.
Yep.
He finally got a fabric that the baggage handlers can't
Yeah, it should
ruin.
be like nearly indestructible.
Yeah,
now.
because some of the material he was using was great and real waterproof, but it would get when things get stuck in the baggage carousel, it would abrade it.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of catchy.
Yeah, and I
The
think
new
we're
one's
going to
sweet.
do a few sizes of that.
Well, I hope so because that needs to be medium.
Okay.
Right?
I'll let him know.
Well, he knows.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I told him that's what I think. I think it should be medium and there should be small and large.
I think that's the direction we're going.
Because that one's a little for carry on. It's a little sketchy.
Too big, too small.
No, you could carry it on, but it'd be like if you stuffed it to the gills, you're not going to be able to use it as a carry on bag. I'm
Yeah,
afraid. If
yeah.
there's a smaller one, and then a big giant
Yeah, and I think
mambo jumbo bag.
because we had a different bag kind of in the works that I think you had, but I think this is replacing that, and so there will be a larger size.
Oh, okay, good.
Big enough. I mean, the guy stuck me in it, so
Oh, that
it's-
big.
It's big.
Wow.
I haven't seen that. I have a cooler that 2 people can fit in.
Yeah. I don't know. How would you know that?
It's a funny story. I had a buddy of mine who's a kind of a lawyer. He's like a lawyer, but he doesn't do any law dogging. So,
So what's he do?
I don't. That's a great question. So I needed some paperwork drawn up for like a thing I own with some other, like our cabin. I need some paperwork drawn up. And he's like, "Oh, I'll do it." He goes, "You just got to get me a cooler for my boat." And he tells me, "What's that cooler I got sitting outside?" Annie Racer and Brittany got in it one time. We were able to close.
I don't
the
know
lid.
what size for those blue water boats that
It's huge.
we'd have to look it up.
Takes 2 people to move it. It's like a
600 maybe. I don't
8.
know.
I don't know. 2 people can lay down lengthwise in it and
Yeah.
shut the door. My buddy says, "I'll do the legal work if you get me a cooler for my boat." And I'm like, "That's fine." So he says, "This is the cooler I want." And it's a giant, the biggest Yeti cooler ever made. I'm like, "That's not going to fit on your boat." "Oh, yeah, it'll fit." I get the cooler delivered to my house. He comes over. "That's not going to fit on my boat." So I still have that thing. I use it to store like bird seed and stuff in it and like charcoal. So you could, yeah,
Just what it was designed for.
that's what it was designed for. What else is coming up? When will that duffel bag be for sale?
June. I
Okay.
think it'll be June. We've got just a couple of launches this year. So Much New Gear came out last year. And the spring, the rest of our Apex belt system, hydration pack, that'll come out in February. And then the pit duffel and a couple other small items will be coming out in June that I can't talk about yet.
Yeah, that's no problem. I hunted turkeys all spring in the Apex belt.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I love it.
Kind of a
man.
game
Love it.
changer.
Yeah, no, it's great. So the Apex belt is like what they like. Paul calls it like he hesitates to use the term, but it's similar to a battle belt.
So
Or
that's kind of like
different words. I don't know what the hell.
yeah,
the
like a
word.
tactical, like load bearing belt or
Yep.
a battle belt. Obviously, years of SWAT team. He had, a similar belt. It's kind of actually what got him sewing. Is he had to buy a battle belt and he was too cheap, so he said, "I bet I could make one," and that's what got him sewing.
is that really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's how he got into sewing. But ended up making belts for a few different guys. Obviously, we've come a long way. This is a 3-piece belt, so different than what you would typically find, and it's a structured belt. So the other colorways of that product will be launching with some accessories like box call pouch, a few other turkey stuff. So
Yeah, like everything at FHF always fits together. So you put the belt on, there will be a hydration bladder that goes on it that functions as a backpack. There's a fanny pack thing. There's pockets for pot calls. There's what I call the morel bag.
yeah, the dump pouch.
There's this dump pouch bag that rolls up to the size of like if you make the OK symbol. You can't really do that for a long time. People thought you were making a.
Mm-hmm.
You remember this? This was real bad to do.
That's still a thing. It's
No, listen. No, let me tell you something. I don't want to name names. Let me tell you something.
the turkey call incident.
This
You
is
can tell that
this
story.
best story I've ever heard.
Okay,
And
I haven't
I
heard
witnessed
this.
it. In the height of all the paranoia, okay, about don't say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing. We're down in South Carolina and we're turkey hunting. And we're on a dirt road that crosses a railroad track. Okay. there's a stop sign because it's a railroad track. I stop and I see a dude stopped coming my way in South Carolina on dirt roads. I see that he's got his hand draped over his wheel, holding a turkey diaphragm call, to the point where I comment on it to my fellow passengers. And it's blaze orange. And I'm even trying to wonder whose call it is. And I'm like, oh, that guy's hunting turkeys too.
He's holding it between his his thumb and his
the OK symbol.
Pointer finger. Yeah.
He's got it, the turkey call in his thumb and pointer finger, his palm rested on the wheel. Some of our camera guys are behind us. I drive past, he waves. They drive past, apparently he waves too. Later, they get all excited that he had given them the white supremacist symbol.
Yeah. Excited because it was a novel, fun thing to witness, or I hope.
I was like, that gentleman, fellas, was holding a turkey call.
Okay.
Between his thumb and forefinger, and that is why he had to wave that way. During the height of that excitement, too, a dude won three like Jeopardies.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're announcing that he won 3 Jeopardies. And instead of going like, when I want to do 3, I do like, I guess thumb to pinky. How do you do 3?
Yeah.
Well, it's the whole plot point in Inglourious Bastards. The 3 or the
3 or 3.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So he throws a 3 like he's doing an OK. So they're announcing his name, 3rd-time champion, and he does this. Next day in the news, white supremacist. He's like, no, I won 3 times. So, what was I getting at? Why was I talking about that?
There was the pouch.
Oh, yeah, that has nothing to do with that story.
Yeah, you're talking about the size of the pouch, and you.
I don't. Oh,
you
the size of the pouch.
Yeah, this is the size of the pouch.
It's so small that if you make what was formerly known as an OK symbol, they still use this in diving. Some diving, some is thumbs up, some is OK. So all day long, and they're like,
"There's no white supremacy subsurface."
White supremacy. So you make the OK symbol, and this pouch would fit like through the OK symbol, but it rolls out to be like the size of an Nalgene bottle. So when you find morels, which is what I did, I undid it, and it's the perfect morel pouch hanging off your belt. It's really comfortable, and then it's got a seat too for turkey hunting.
Yeah.
Like I've always been a reluctant user of turkey vests. This thing is far, far, far better than any turkey vest I've ever done. And when you sit down and you open the call pouch out, what's the call pouch called again?
The echelon pouch.
The echelon pouch. You open that out, it kind of opens up. So your strikers and your pots are sitting right there. Your scratch pads sitting right there. Then you zip it back up. You don't be leaving everything laying out in the woods, which is my problem.
Oh man, I've left calls laying on the ground so many times.
I remember calling Doug Duran, being like, "Hey man, you know that one tree way at the back? Like, can you go look under there for? Can you go over there and look for my stuff?" So that's a good deal. And some of that's out now, and some's coming out. It'll kind of roll out, right?
Yep, most of it's out now, just in a couple of colors, and then the rest of it will launch in February. We've got a box call pouch that's launching, the dump pouch that you just talked about, and then a couple other small accessories like suspenders. If you really want to load it up, you can buy suspenders. But the nice thing, you can use everything independently.
Oh yeah, and you can tie it into your bino harness if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it's a sweet system. You know what I use it a lot for too? Fishing in the summer.
Yeah.
Wading creeks.
That's definitely what I use it for. So we spent a lot of time this fall. We went down to Sedona and did fly fishing, and I wore it the whole time, and it was great.
You did fly fishing?
Yep.
Went fly fishing.
I went fly fishing.
You did it. Did that. Anything else we should know about?
Lots of exciting stuff coming in 25. So we'll probably start leaking some of that out in the next 6 months.
Oh, I don't want to show this. But let's say I liked this. When would that be available?
That'll be out in 25.
Oh, really? Way in the future.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for letting me try one out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh. Okay. I don't know if I want to talk about this now. Do we want to get into this now, Corinne? Or does this take too long to get into?
I mean, you can feel free to skip any of the things.
I'm going to talk about this because we spent a bunch of time on this talking about it already. We got in a big old argument.
You can put a bow on it.
Yeah, this will be the end. We're going to have to bring back that song, Corinne. We done beat this horse to death.
Are you going to bring up Cal's email while you're at it?
Cal's email.
Remember, he got all mad that
Cal
we were
got real
spending
mad
time
that we were
on
talking about
this.
So we got a little bit of a fight here in the studio one day about the Ornithological Society's decision to rename 60 birds, which I felt was obsessive in a media grab. Nowadays, it's like just to give a quick recap. Nowadays, it's bad form. Have you ever named a species or been involved in naming a species, Carmen?
No.
Well, but it's not like you think. Like, I know people that have got to name them because, you know, they split so much in taxonomy. If you worked with invertebrates or catfish or something, you get to be involved in all kinds of species naming. Because everybody's like, you know, you go down to South America and everybody's like, oh, you know, that little brown catfish? Then one day you go to another river and you realize that whatever.
Yeah.
This one has
A lot of splitting.
8 rays on its tail, but next river over, it's got 9 rays on its tail. Then you get to name it something new.
Mm-hmm.
So that those guys get, like, if you were in beetles, you'd be naming something every day.
Oh, yeah. Or worms.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Naming worms in South America, you probably could name one every day. But in your business of the cat business, you probably don't stumble across a whole hell of a lot of new cats. So it used to be that you'd name stuff your last name. And then the sample we always use is Stellar. So Stellar has the Stellar sea lion, Stellar's jay, Stellar's eagle. He just ran around naming everything after himself. Turns out I didn't know this. He was a hell of a nice guy. And also was very yes, that's right. Randall's laughing. I don't know if he's a hell of a nice guy. He's got a Randall, will you not laugh if I say he's got a hell of a resume?
No, keep a straight face.
Okay. Hell of a resume. Mm-hmm. And also really here's the clip. Here's the kicker. At a time when people weren't very interested in this, Stellar really went out of his way to study, understand, and record the lifeways of native Arctic peoples. Did you know that?
I read the same doc.
Randall's on fire today, huh? You know, if you smile, you know, these people won't know. Listening.
Yeah, that's true.
Normally Randall used to be a good guest. Remember that?
Oh, I thought I was just doing well there.
No.
No, this is a bad.
Remember who was a real good guest that we didn't realize was Max? You should maybe get rid of Randall and bring Max in more often. That's a hell of a guest right there. You ever been in a room with Max?
Some Maxes. I don't know which Max.
Max Barta.
Oh, yeah. He's a great guest. Yeah.
Reminds me of you when you were
back when I was
back a month ago. So it used to be common to name things after oneself. That has fallen out of favor. So what these guys at the Ornithological Society are doing is they're saying to hell with it. They want to rename 60-some birds to eliminate anything offensive and eliminate anyone's last name. So the Stellar's jay would become, you know, that one purple jay or whatever, you know, right? Just get rid of it. And this guy wrote in who's actually involved in naming a species, and this guy's like, listen, none of this matters. Different than Cal. Like, he's interested in it as an intellectual exercise, but he's a researcher. What's he work on? He's a taxonomist.
Bees.
And he works on native bees. Now, let me ask you guys a true or false. The honeybee is
not
native.
False.
Yeah, isn't that wild? He works on native bees and which means he deals in the nomenclature of native bees. And he says, I want to start off by saying that the push to not name new species after people, even ones who aren't well known, like Stellar, etc., is one that's very strongly felt in the scientific community at the moment. And I've been questioned a couple times on some of my species names by people who didn't like the fact I was naming them after folks. Presumably not himself. I had a friend that got to name some catfish species in South America, and she named them all after the indigenous tribes in that area, which is
seems reasonable.
Good politics.
Yeah.
He points this out. He says, but it's important to note that the changing of names after the fact is unheard of. There remains to this day a species of beetle named after everyone's least favorite Austrian painter. And how would you pronounce that, Carmen?
Oh, God, you're asking me?
Oh, yeah, you're probably really good on Latin. What they teach you in school? What would you say? Right there.
I would say Hitleri.
No. The first word.
Oh. Anophthalmus?
Hitleri.
Hitleri. Yeah.
So here we are. He's got a beetle named after him. And he says, which stands as a testament that scientifically we don't change names for any reason, no matter how offensive. It's worth noting, this is him still talking. It's worth noting, however, with this whole situation, that the Ornithological Society is, in Trumpian NOT, all capital, is not the authoritative body on nomenclatural acts of animals. That is solely the domain of the board of the ICZN, the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. They are not changing the actual names of these birds, but they're changing their own, meaning the Ornithological Society. They're not changing the actual names of these birds. They're changing their own suggestions for common names, which is fun, as the person writing in then editorializes and says, which is fundamentally meaningless. It would be the equivalent of Pheasants Forever deciding that they're going to call the bird the American ring-necked pheasant. So, okay, right now, if you look up a pheasant right now, do you know what the pheasant is called?
Chinese ring-necked pheasant.
Its official name is the Chinese ring-necked pheasant. He's saying that Pheasants Forever could one day say, from now on, it's the American ring-necked pheasant. Like, oh, you'll find this interesting, Brooklyn. I got sick of people calling skulls European mounts because I just didn't see what's so European about it. Like, Native Americans used cleaned up skulls in the Sundance ceremony. Did they call it a Euro mount?
Couldn't tell you.
They didn't. So I started calling them freedom mounts in memory of when we had to reban French fries during the Iraq invasion.
Okay.
Because the French didn't want us. The French thought that was not a good idea. Stupid that was. How dumb they were. And so in retaliation, they proposed that French fries become freedom fries. And then I think promptly went back to French fry after that debacle. So he says, if the Pheasants Forever all of a sudden came out and said, hey, you know what? We're going to call it the American ringneck pheasant. The rest of the world would be like, call it what you want, buddy. At the end of the day, it's still Phasianus colchicus. He says this is especially true for birds like Steve's favorite Steller's jay. The Ornithological Society can change the name to the anti-Steller's jay all they want. The species name will still be Cyanotica stellari, which means that Steller's jay remains the technically correct name. And if I've been paying attention to trivia, it seems being technically correct is Steve's favorite kind of correct. He goes on. Overall, this move by the Ornithological Society seems strange to me as someone whose literal job is to assign and assess the validity of species names. Once in place, provided they remain valid, scientific names never change no matter how offensive, and they certainly don't prevent people from entering the scientific fields associated with those names. So the suggestion that some birders may feel excluded by the fact that a jay is named after Steller holds about as much water as changing its common name does. Durkin also, our beloved friend Pat Durkin, also wrote an article about that covers on the changing of bird names and also gets into, mainly focuses in on a movement. This is going to sound like a joke, but it's not. A movement to coin the term Bob kitten for a bobcat kitten. There's even like a change.org petition. And he tracks how the media has picked up on Bob kitten, which really, I guess, irritates the hell out of bobcat researchers. So watch out for the word bob kitten. You ever throw that around?
No.
You ever heard it?
No.
Pat might be trying to make up. Pat might be doing that thing they do on Fox a lot, where they take a thing that isn't really a thing, but make it like it's a big thing to be worried about.
Mm-hmm.
I read the article. It seemed legit.
You don't think Pat's doing that?
No.
He had a lot of cases of people trying to say bob kitten.
Mm-hmm.
Pat does not like that one bit. This is up in your neck of the woods, Carmen. You ready for this news item?
Yeah.
U.S. government wants 500,000 barred owls culled.
Mm-hmm.
Cal told me this, and I thought that cannot be true, but I didn't know that barred owls aren't native to the Pacific Northwest.
No.
Those dudes are everywhere now.
Yep. They're kind of like whitetails. They can just creep on in, and they do better and can outcompete spotted owls. And so
It's
they're kind of
unbelievable.
moving in. Yeah.
Remember the ones at the fish shack?
Yeah,
this
I
spring?
never ever at our fish shack in Southeast Alaska, never heard them. They were up there ripping all spring up there.
And they make some freaky noises.
Oh, Seth will show you. Do it, Seth.
They do the yeah.
Well,
like-
do the main one.
There's a screechy screaming one too. That
Seth can rip it.
They sound like a pack of monkeys sometimes,
Yeah,
like up in
yeah.
the trees.
I had no idea they weren't from around. I mean, I feel like just anecdotally, if you just said to me, do you hear more barred owls than you used to? I would have said like definitely.
yeah.
But I never ever knew that they weren't from there.
Yeah. They're creepers.
So this is the news article this was covered in Newsweek. I'm not sure where else it was covered. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service wants more than 500,000 barred owls to be shot dead. It's lively language. Not just shot and
Wounded
injured.
by gunfire.
not just shot and wounded. Shot dead in a coal to help protect other native species. Barred owls are an invasive species in the Pacific Northwest from the East Coast.
That's where I have a question, though. If something makes its way there naturally,
It's not invasive.
it's not like we dumped them there.
Yeah, this brings up a really interesting language thing. And we've talked about this a million
Yeah.
times. That'd be because if you move somewhere on your own, are you invasive? Because you would never say like possums used to not extend outside of the Mason-Dixon line, but they do now. But no one says possums are invasive. They just moved.
Right.
Javelinas have gradually moved northward, but they're not invasive in the northern end of their range in Texas.
Yeah.
You would never say that humans who move themselves out of Africa all around the entire planet, you would never say humans are invasive.
Some people would, but you're right.
I think the spirit of it though is that these are species that have moved into places because of changes in the habitat and the ecology that humans have brought around.
Yeah, I get that. That's a good point. Indirect to human.
Yeah.
Meaning, if a monkey hopped on a plane, two
Mm-hmm.
monkeys who were in love hopped on a plane and started a new population somewhere, you wouldn't go, well, they moved themselves around by hopping onto the plane. They would be very readily labeled invasive species.
Yeah.
So I guess if you're paving the way from them,
Exactly. Yeah.
like how mule deer are coming into Alaska,
Mm-hmm.
they're coming along the highway corridor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a good point. Okay, I'm back to being mad at Bart. I was mad at him. Now I'm back to being mad at him. This is so in areas where barred owls are present in higher numbers, northern spotted owl populations are declining rapidly. They are now listed as threatened under the Endangered Species Act, with populations having declined by between 35% and 80% over the past 20 years due to barred owls. Carmen, you don't happen to know? Carmen's not an owl biologist. What's going on? How are they all competing? Is it for nesting cavities, or what are they arguing about?
I don't know the exact mechanism, but when you get barred owls out of there, if the habitat's suitable, you're getting spotted owls back. And
Really?
this isn't a new, controlling barred owls isn't a completely new thing. I've got a wonderful friend and colleague, and she's a great biologist, total badass. And her job for a long time was going out hunting barred owls at night.
That's the question.
Shooting to kill.
Yep.
That's the
controlling barred
question
owls.
I had about this whole thing, because their plan to kill 500,000
over.
barred out.
Actually, we should point out here.
Yeah.
It's over 30 years.
Right. Because it's like you're not going to go out and shoot a couple hundred of them a night. They're like what I read is they call them. They use whatever thermor night.
Me and
visions.
Clay could have got 4 or 5 in Florida calling.
Right.
Yeah.
But 4 or 5 a night, 2 dudes, like, it's going to take a while.
I'm not that good at math. I don't know if we'd get to 500,000.
It just, yeah.
Do you know who's going to do it? They're going to do it themselves?
The government? Yeah, probably.
Or they're going to enlist like
agencies.
citizen shooters?
I have no idea. I mean, you want to trust somebody that they're good at their owl ID,
right? Because at night, they're about the same size.
He's got some gray horn. He's got a few northern spotted.
Yeah.
It's like every owl I saw. Yeah. No, that's a good point.
It's a careful operation.
Long time ago, we were having we were covering this thing in the news. It was that this involves Durkin. It has to do with like whether you could ever say to someone, kill barred owls, but don't kill all the other owls. But think about what you're saying, though. We're laughing about their inability to do it. How come you can say, okay, you can get 7 Drake mallards, 2 hen mallards, 1 hen northern pintail, no scaup, but on and on. Some canvasbacks, but no scaups. Redhead's okay, right? Like people are capable of some pretty specific identification. We were covering this push where they're trying to get in Wisconsin northern pike spearing legalized. I had no idea until this happened that you couldn't spear a pike in Wisconsin. And they were like, well, anglers won't be able to tell the difference between a northern and a muskie. Durkin wrote in and be like, well, how can you be trusted to tell the difference between, a sharp-tailed grouse and a greater sage grouse and a hen pheasant and a male, on and on and on, or all the duck stuff you're trusted to tell the difference, but you can't tell the difference between these 2 fish. And someone wrote in to say, you don't know how drunk these people are. And talking about the ice fishermen in Wisconsin. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I think that
I'm looking at you like you got something to tell me.
I mean, I have lots of thoughts about invasive species control and all of that, and I think I'm not an invasive species manager, but I can appreciate what a difficult job that is because on the one hand, crowdsourcing this or using, the community to help out, I mean, that's an obvious way to get more shit done, but you're weighing all these other things. You're weighing, okay, what are the consequences of like government sanctioned hunt where we've got people out at night who are not just telling 2 birds apart, but trying to tell an invasive species at night from a spotted owl, which would be a big bummer to accidentally shoot.
How big is a spotted owl? Same size?
About the same size. I mean, they're not wildly different creatures.
Yeah.
That's a higher risk. And when you've got a population of owls that is really low, like spotted owls, you want to make sure people are getting it right.
Got it.
Yeah.
You're pro big government.
I'm
joking.
pro careful management.
No, I understand what you're saying. Here's a good segue. What's the most ready way? You being a lynx researcher, you have to have a lot of people who tell you they saw a lynx.
Yes.
And it's a bobcat.
Yeah.
I was dogging on
my own sister.
I was dogging on camera guys a minute ago about that dude holding the turkey call, so I don't want to dog on him again. So I'll tell you that I can't remember what type of person this happened to. There's one of these types of people. I can't tell you what type. Always swears me up and down about the lynx he saw. And just by where it was, I'm like, no, you just didn't. It had tufts on its ears. I'm like, it did.
Yeah.
But not that kind.
The way I handle that is I hate bursting people's bubbles, and so I try to do it pretty gentle. Plus, lynx go weird places, and when there's invasions of lynx or one has gotten kicked out of its own home range because it's an old lynx or whatever, they end up in strange spots.
Oh, they do?
Oh, yeah.
So maybe this guy's right.
There's always a chance, and so I will usually say something like...
I know you're out there. If you took offense, I'd take it back.
I would say something like, for where that was, I would be very surprised. But lynx go weird places. You never know. So that's pretty cool. That's what I usually say.
Oh, that's what you'll say.
Yeah.
You'll throw them a little bone.
Yeah, yeah. And because I don't know.
To keep the dream alive.
Exactly. Yes, I don't want to be a dream smasher.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've laid my eyes on one lynx.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was a lynx.
Okay.
Because it was in the Arctic.
Yes, that's pretty solid.
It was just on the south slope of the Brooks Range. It stepped out into the pipeline road. And 20 feet off the bumper. And it was like looking into another planet. Mm-hmm. It was the first lynx I saw. I'm convinced I was the first person it saw. It looked at me with like utter like disinterest, but also no sort of preconceived notion of that I might be trouble as I opened the door. Mm-hmm. And then he just walked off. Never laid eyes on another one.
That's pretty special. Yeah. Not many people.
I'm glad for the one.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'll get to see another one, but it was the one I saw. And
That's
it was
cool.
like they have a face it's like they have a human baby face.
That's funny. I always say they have an old man face.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the same thing, man.
It kind of is, huh?
Phil lost it. It was one of my favorite things I owned. Phil lost it. I used to have this
not claiming
quote.
responsibility for
I
this.
used to have this quote. It was framed in our old studio. You might have read it. It was a guy talking about on seeing his children born. It was an Irish writer talking about seeing his children born. That when they come out, how ancient they are. Mm-hmm. And he said, like Egyptian pharaohs, like with their features smoothed by time, traveled across this immense journey to be here. And he goes, and then in an instant they become young. Hmm. So meaning it can be an old man and a little baby, like a human baby.
Yeah. So we're on the same page about
human babies come out, they look like crazy old men for a couple seconds.
Yeah.
What else are you looking at when you're looking, just to verify, when someone says, oh my God, a lynx?
The feet, they got kind of a jacked up back end, meaning that their butts are a little higher than their shoulders.
Now that you say that, that's a good point.
Yeah. And then their tails. So bobcats, the tip of a bobcat tail is black on top and the sides and then white underneath. Whereas a bobcat, it's like their tail was dipped
back up.
Or sorry, a lynx is dipped in ink. Like it's black all the way around on the tip.
So
white. Okay, bobcat, white on the bottom. Lynx, the end of their tail, completely black all the way around. No white on the bottom.
Oh, you mean if he turned his tail up?
Yeah, or if you can see it from the side even on a bobcat. That's one of the
so the underside of a lynx's tail.
Okay, yeah. If you're thinking about a lynx's tail and there's the tip of it, and the top of it and sides are black there, but on the bottom is white.
On a lynx?
Nope, bobcat. You'll get it.
No, I'll get there. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's start with a bobcat. Tell me about a bobcat's tail.
Bobcat's tail.
And people know, just so you know, people, this is helpful for people that send us in photos wondering what they're looking at.
Yeah, this is a good one for photos.
Bobcat, it means it's a cat with a bobbed tail.
Yes, which a lynx also has a short tail.
Also has a bobbed tail. So a bobcat's tail looks like this.
Black. Okay, we're talking about the end of the tail, the tip of the tail.
Yeah.
It's black on top, white on the bottom. And
I wouldn't have been able to tell you that. I mean, I've handled them and I wouldn't be able to tell you that's true. I believe you. I just never looked that carefully.
Yeah. And so even from the side, so if you're looking at trail camera pictures and you can see the tail, this is really, really helpful because you'll see some white.
On a bobcat's tail.
Yeah, even from the side, you can see that the bottom is white. Whereas a lynx, the entire end of the tail looks like it was dipped into black ink.
No kidding.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Do you know what's funny about lynx is I want you to talk about the range of lynx. Mm-hmm. But are you familiar with the comedian Jerry Clower? He's dead.
No.
He was a storyteller. He used to get up at the Grand Ole Opry between musical acts and tell hunting stories. Different time. Mm-hmm. He has a story about a guy that some of his characters are out raccoon hunting at night in Mississippi. Okay. And there's a guy they're hunting with who won't let anyone shoot. He thinks it's disrespectful to shoot a raccoon out of a tree. He thinks the only respectable way to do it is you got to climb up into that tree. And Clower talks about how their dogs tree a raccoon in the, quote, biggest sweet gum tree of all of Amet County. And this dude, John Newbanks, they're like, I bet you can't climb up that tree, John, because he'll climb them up and knock them out with a stick and then let the dogs fight them. He says you got to give a coon a sporting chance. So Clower talks about how he takes off his Brogan shoes and digs his toenails into the bark of that sweet gum tree.
Trim those.
And is able to climb into the sweet gum tree, and then all hell breaks loose, and Clower says that it was a lynx up in that tree in Mississippi.
Okay, I'm going to say no. But here's the thing.
That always bothered me because everything with Clower is so precise. I think he meant to say a mountain lion.
You know what? I bet you he
Or
wasn't,
a
because
bobcat.
in Durkin's article, he lists a bunch of common name, like semi-common names for bobcats, and there was a couple different versions of lynx.
Yeah.
in
But
there.
Clower says this. But it wasn't no coon. This is a quote. But it wasn't no coon. It was a lynx, a souped-up wildcat.
I'm just telling you, they had like some
Do you
southern
think that's what he
lynx.
maybe meant?
Yeah. It was
I
like
think he meant a
vernacular
bobcat.
kind of names for
Yeah,
bobcats.
that's
Oh God! Now I'm back. This puts all my faith back into Clower.
yeah, you can have that back. Because that's one of the difficult things about figuring out the historic range of lynx in the lower 48.
Okay.
We're relying on trapping records, and people were not consistent with calling bobcats and lynx. There'd be lynx cat, and yeah.
Got it. You'll sometimes look at
Same genus.
fur bearer market reports, and I'll see lynx cat.
Yeah.
That means a bobcat or a lynx?
I'm not sure. People, it's this common name thing, right? People can call them whatever they want, kind of.
What's the most southern lynx that's like confirmed that you're aware of?
Now,
Yeah.
Colorado, maybe down into Utah every once in a while, but like as a resident population, Colorado.
Let's say
Gotcha.
European contact.
Huh?
Let's say a good stab at where.
Oh,
Yeah, like give me
Probably
a good
Colorado.
stab. Okay.
Yeah.
So the distribution isn't changed remarkably.
right. We
gotcha.
don't think the distribution has changed much. It's just how many animals are in those spots.
The density has changed.
Yeah.
Got it. So
Yeah.
they'll follow the Rockies down into Colorado, maybe Utah.
Mm-hmm.
By the time you get into how far into Canada are they across the whole top of Canada?
Not much further north than the border. Oh, across all of Canada?
Yeah, you gotta get way up, or
I mean, no, you don't have to get, well, wherever there's boreal forest, that's where they are. So, in places like Alberta where there's more prairie and stuff like that, they're not going to be down in that, but they get pretty ubiquitous
in
as soon
boreal
as there's
forest.
boreal forest. Yep.
I've read that the boreal forest is the largest biome on Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's a cool space.
Yeah. Lay out the work you work. Lay out where and what work you're doing right now, currently.
Okay. With just the Lynx project, you want me
your
to
Lynx
start?
project,
Okay.
yeah.
So let's see. We're starting on year 2 of our field effort for our Lynx and wildfire project. So in the lower 48, we were just talking about their distribution. There's 5 resident populations of lynx. There's Washington,
Mhm.
there's Idaho, Montana, there's Minnesota and Maine, and then Colorado.
Hold on. Minnesota has lynx?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
You know that, Brody?
I did not.
You'd got that wrong in
It's
trivia.
the,
Are
it's
you
the
seri-
WNBA team, isn't it? The Minnesota Lynx.
Yeah, but Michigan Wolverines, dude.
But it makes, you think about that North Country stuff.
Yeah, they got Fishers and Martin.
a lot of
and-
spruce forest, and
They got lynx there.
Yeah.
Do you know that, Seth?
In Minnesota?
Don't lie.
No.
Dr. Randall?
I didn't even know Maine had them.
Yeah, Maine's got a
that
good-
state.
good population.
Huh.
They're doing
Maine
they're
had
doing pretty
caribou
well.
up until the 1920s.
There's I think the furthest north city or town in Maine is called Caribou. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Didn't know that. Good job,
you
Carmen.
want to hear some common bobcat names?
Bobcat or lynx names?
Bobcat. Well, like vernacular names. Lynx rufus,
Well, Lynx rufus is a scientific name.
Include bay lynx, barred bobcat, catamount, cat of the mountain, lynx cat, pallid bobcat, red lynx, wildcat, and shot sauvage.
When they get into those lists, I feel like they're starting to throw in stuff that some dude said once.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just saying. Clower was.
Yeah, no,
Probably.
I'm back to love and Clower.
Yeah.
Anyone interested in Jerry Clower, besides listening to Jerry Clower, you could go listen to the Bear Grease episodes about Jerry Clower. He's one of my favorite people. My kids like Jerry Clower a lot. You never heard Jerry Clower?
Mm-mm.
Go type up, will you promise me something?
Sure.
Type up Jerry Clower, a coon hunting story.
All right.
That's the one that has the Lynx cat in it.
All right.
Brooklyn, you tracking all this?
Yeah.
How would you gauge? How would you, if you had on a 1 to 10, how interesting this is? What would you give it?
Like 6.
All right.
All
See,
right,
that's
I
a
gotta try
reliable.
harder.
That's a reliable. See, that's who you need around, man. Is someone that gives it to you straight. Yeah. Because you can see her being
Clinical.
Like, yeah, you can see her being like, "Oh yeah, 9," and being in her head like, "Yeah, right." She might have been like 3, but I can't say that.
No, it's encouraging. There's room for improvement, but we're
It's not as bad as it could be.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I didn't know that. Like, do you have rough ideas? Oh, you were doing the 5, so Washington.
Yeah.
Now, why is it not Washington, Oregon? Oregon's too far down.
Too far south.
Okay.
So
okay.
in Washington, our lynx range is interesting because we've got the North Cascades.
Yeah.
And they quickly start to transition into more southerly forest types. Lynx rely on snowshoe hares. They're a specialist predator. 85 to 90% of their diet is snowshoe hares. That's what they're built for.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes them different from bobcats and big parts.
You sent me the coolest photo of brand new snowshoe hare tracks.
Oh,
with
yeah.
brand new
Yes.
lynx tracks, both of them running laid
Yeah.
over top of each other. That was cool.
That is their thing. They rely on snowshoe hares, and snowshoe hares obviously because of their name. We all know that they've got those big feet, and that makes them able to get around in these deep snow environments. Lynx, same thing. It's like the Armsworth thing. They've evolved with big, giant Muppet feet, and they're really light framed, and they can just walk on the snow same way. So they're like built to pursue snowshoe hares and live in these deep snow environments, boreal, subboreal forest. So in Washington, it's we're in this cool place where this boreal forest is starting to transition into more southerly forests, and so we're right on the range edge of lynx because their habitat's about to just peter out. So we've got a naturally small population because of that, because their habitat's just sort of marginal. Now we're getting megafires, which are fires that are over 100,000 acres. Warmer, drier, windier summers. We're snowpack in the winter. We're just having more frequent, bigger, hotter, high severity fires. And that is not good for lynx because snowshoe hares rely on a forest that's got a bunch of branches down low, a lot of horizontal cover. So like stuff that you wouldn't maybe want to bushwhack through. That's what snowshoe hares love because they eat those branches and everybody wants to eat a snowshoe hare. So those branches and that understory gives them some protection from predators. So because snowshoe hares need that kind of forest, that's where lynx are. When a huge high severity fire, and high severity means like it's killing almost or all of the trees in that patch. When a big fire comes through like that, there's pretty much no trees left. It's matchsticks.
And there goes the snowshoe hares.
There goes the snowshoe hares. There goes the lynx. And so Washington is in this unique place where we are just getting hammered by these fires. Partially because of our changing climate, but also because we just have kind of a unique, and I don't know why this is, but we get a ton of lightning strikes.
Okay.
And so from starting in the year 2000, we just started getting hit, boom, 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 by these giant fires to the point where now you look at a map of lynx habitat and it looks like it's mostly burned recently. And so this has put a big hurt on our lynx population.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely.
How many lynx are in Washington?
They're
I mean, no one knows, but
yeah,
give me in the thousands?
Oh, no.
No. Okay.
No, around 60 maybe. What? Yeah, it's bad. It's really, really bad.
60 in the state. And
60
then,
in the state.
And then I know we're a little out of secret, but I want to revisit something. Washington, and you said Idaho, Montana. Okay. And that's what? Not thousands?
Hundreds.
Okay.
Maybe hundreds, yeah.
And Minnesota?
I don't know about Minnesota. Maine is hundreds as well.
Hundreds.
But all of these.
But the population you're toying with is
it's
sub 100.
Yes,
How certain are you that it's sub 100?
Mm,
on a scale of 1 to 5?
4.5, but I like to be optimistic.
Okay.
Maybe we've got 100.
Yeah. But you don't have 300.
We don't have 300. No.
And if you go back 25 years, how many are you talking about? Like, what's the rate
now
of decline?
Now it starts to get really sketchy on estimates.
Yeah.
It's not a lot. It's maybe, I know I've read this number somewhere. Maybe between 150 and 200.
Sure.
So,
when a fire happens in one of like the snowshoe hare population just gets nuked, is it like an immediate precipitous decline for the bobcat? Or I mean, for the lynx? Or like, are they such specialists they can't like adjust and be like, I'm going to go after squirrels or I'm going to go after birds or whatever?
Yeah. So I think the answer is it kind of depends.
Right.
So when a fire burns, so for example, 2006 was our first big burn. It was called the tripod burn, and it burned most of what was considered the best lynx habitat that we had in Washington. And that, let's see, the winter following that burn, we started, or a lynx project started, and we got collars out on cats that were living right adjacent to that burn. And what we found was that it's just a habitat, it's a bunch of habitat lost. And so, we don't know exactly what happened to those lynx that were living right there. Maybe they dispersed, which that's a dangerous thing to do because you might not find another home range. Maybe they went up to Canada and found something, who knows? But that becomes largely unusable habitat.
Presumably a lot of them just burn up, right?
I think less animals burn up than we think.
Really?
I mean, yeah. I mean,
You think they're able to, but like take something like pine squirrels. There's no way pine squirrels are getting away from a fire.
I think they've got some time. I have found burned up pine squirrels though.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of animals.
But you think
get
like
out.
lynx are just moving ahead of it and staying out?
Yeah, I think so. I think they'd have to get cornered or trapped.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I did have a friend find how he described it was barbecued cougar after a big fire that we had. It got trapped in a little canyon.
Got it.
But I don't think they're burning up. I think they're getting out of there.
Got it.
They've evolved with fire.
Yeah.
Have you found like other things lynx have killed, like deer, or do they cannibalize themselves, or like have you found anything that was surprising that a lynx?
Right. I haven't found anything surprising. They'll eat. So let's see. Let me back up. They rely on snowshoe hares to the point where there's this sort of classic ecology lesson that in the northern part of their range, where there's lots of snowshoe hares and lots of lynx, there's a cycle where lynx, slightly lagging behind snowshoe hares population numbers, will increase as snowshoe hares increase, and then as snowshoe hares start to decrease, lynx start decreasing. And so it's this cycle. It's more than just lynx driving that cycle. There's a whole suite of predators. Like I said, everybody wants to eat a snowshoe hare. That's just like, it's a great snack.
Friends in Alaska have told me, who trap lynx, have told me that it's almost immediate. The boom bust that goes along with snow. Because like down here, we don't have the snowshoe hare cycles.
Right. They're either, just, we're kind of at a constant low or just really dampened amplitude.
We don't have
cycles.
those like the insane swings.
Right.
Have you ever seen that stuff where they went through Hudson Bay Company lynx records and they're able to see a 7-year swing on how many lynx pelts the Hudson Bay Company was dealing with, like in the 1700s, 1800s, whatever, and they're able to kind of correlate that to the cascading populations.
Yep. And so those fur records are where people started to notice, oh, this isn't like a steady, perfectly balanced ecology here. Things fluctuate.
Yeah.
And so the cycle's about every 10-ish years, booms and busts. And so anyway, that's just to illustrate how reliant on snowshoe hares lynx are.
And they're chasing them in the summer when there's no snow.
Yeah.
They still do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. When there's a low, they will rely more on red squirrels. And so there is some of that, but it's rarely a significant part of their diet.
Have you seen that it was a fairly viral video of a lynx killing a caribou. It's wild.
Ooh,
it's cool.
I
think it
haven't
might
seen
have
that,
been in
but-
Europe though.
Their lynx
Well,
are
I've heard
bigger.
there's a record of one killing. There's a record of a lynx killing a doll sheep.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a witness
in North America.
Yeah, in Alaska.
They
it was in
will-
a book by a biologist from who's at the University of Alaska at Fairbanks. Wrote a book, and in it there's a person watched it happen.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I've never seen it, but there are records of, a big lynx, which when I say big, I mean like 30, 31 pounds, taking down a deer if it's, mired in snow or something like that, held back by the snow. But really, it's snowshoe hares are where it's at for them.
Yeah, like everybody knows, like bears eat honey.
90% of their diet.
Like now and then they
honey.
eat something besides honey.
Yeah.
Now and then they'll eat your buck sheep. But mostly they like honey.
Yeah. So back to the fires. Lynx are listed as threatened all across the lower 48. In Washington, they're listed by the state as endangered. And that's in large part because of this blow up of fires that we've had. And so what we're trying to do, because it's a whole paradigm shift of what we think we know about their habitat here in Washington. Many of the habitat studies that were done earlier on were on a landscape that was largely unaffected by wildfires, because it was the suppression era when the Forest Service was doing a really good job of putting out starts. Now we're to the point where climate conditions are such and our fuels out there are so loaded and contiguous because we were excluding those small fires that would naturally happen and sort of break up the fuel bed. Now they just blow up, and they're often beyond our firefighting capabilities. So we can't rely on suppression, and nor should we if we want to try to get our landscape back to a place where it can have somewhat of its own negative feedback loop with fire, where little fires are sort of dampening the effects of future fires.
Yep.
So anyway, what we know about habitat was largely based on that really fire unaffected landscape. Now we've flip-flopped. Now most of our landscape is affected by fires, and not just fires, but really big fires that burned with a high severity, so killing a lot of the trees. And so we need to get in there and figure out how lynx are using this new novel landscape. They've got a whole new menu of
the
options.
regrowth.
The regrowth, the different, let's see, when we talk about boreal forest, yeah, there's forest, but if you really think about that.
Can you describe boreal forest for people?
So it's more ubiquitous up in Canada and Alaska. It's that spruce and fir, lodgepole pine forest that's, in mountains, it's sort of that subalpine right before you get out of tree line. Yeah, it's that ecosystem, that spruce fir like you'd see up in Alaska or Canada.
Got it.
Yeah.
And here and there you'll see aspens, which doesn't rule out.
Sure.
Yeah, doesn't rule out it being boreal forest.
Right. Where was I going with that? Oh, boreal forest. We think about, a forest, we can picture a forest, but with we can think a little more thoughtfully about that and realize that there's all different structure types within that. So what I mean by that is there's little short regenerating forests. There's, older growth forest. There's 40-year-old forest that's, sometimes when you come across a patch of lodgepole pine and it's maybe, the trunks are the size of dinner plates, and it's just the canopy is so thick that the understory is totally parked out and you could just stroll through there no problem.
Yep.
So there's that type of structure. There's all these different structures. And again, for snowshoe hares, it's about that understory. It's about that dense structure. And so for lynx, it's about that dense structure. And so while we've still got boreal forest out there, there's all different structures of it. There's just freshly burned, there's regenerating, there's that parked out understory when they're sort of middle-aged, and there's old growth. There's different shapes and sizes of those patches of forest after a burn that are left. And so we need to figure out what are those structures and shapes that lynx are using, because that's what we need to be focusing on now, because that's what we've got, and these megafires are not stopping. And so that's
what does
our
focused
future.
on mean?
We just need to learn the basics of this new habitat that they're using. And so that's what we're trying to learn about and focus on is burned habitat. So we're working in that burn I was talking about, that tripod burn that burned in 2006. And we're going in there, we're getting lynx collars on lynx, and we're backtracking, and we're using a whole bunch of cameras to figure out how they're making that burn work, because they are making it work. This is something that's really hopeful and cool that's happened in the last 7 years. Is it's gone from we'd go out there looking for lynx tracks and see nothing, not even very many snowshoe hare tracks, to all of a sudden we're starting to see lynx tracks. And
over the course of 7 years.
Yeah, not very much time. To now, one of the
So in your time out there, you've seen a difference.
Oh yeah, big time.
As it recovers.
Yeah. Okay. One of the cool things we're seeing now is right after the burn, when we had those GPS collars on cats back in 2006, 7, 8, there were cats that were living right next to the burn, and if there were nice places in that burn that had skipped, fire skips, so places where the burn went around for whatever reason, they'd jaunt in there and use those for hunting. And so we learned from that study that if there is some structure, there will be snowshoe hares, and the lynx will make the most of that.
And they'll find those spots.
They'll find those spots. But those spots in the immediate aftermath of a fire were places like fire skips, and they'd preferentially use lighter area burns, where there was still some live tree, just a little bit of cover to get to those spots. I mean, you've probably tracked.
They like to have overhead cover.
They like to have something. If you've ever followed any kind of cat tracks, they are so meticulous about hugging cover. They'd really rather not be out in the open. I think I don't know what a cat's thinking. I'm not a lynx, but I think that's probably a mixture of just protection, but also if there's any little bit of cover, there's a little chance there's some food, and they're always looking for food. And so you'll see them do things like preferentially, walk between two trees rather than just, going alongside them. They're cool like that. They're really using that cover.
How big is their home range?
That really varies.
Probably on the like how much food is around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in Washington, from our previous collaring, we had home ranges that were as small as like 7 square miles all the way up to 90 or 100 square miles. They can be bigger.
No kidding.
I mean, it's
is that a male-female thing largely? Or is it just personality too?
Males tend to have larger because they want to overlap several females.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also how much space, how much habitat do I need to make a living?
Got it.
So the theory is if the habitat is less productive, you're going to need more of it. You're going to have to cover more ground. So
in snowshoe hare paradise, he doesn't need to go.
Right. It could be a really small home range.
Did you see that study years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago? I don't know if you call it a study, but this observation from some years ago where there's guys looking at, these researchers used to wonder about rivers and how lynx related to rivers, thinking that big rivers like the Tanana, right, in Alaska, that the Tanana would be an obvious barrier for lynx, but they'll swim back and forth across that thing.
There's not much.
They had some up in those areas, dudes, and it'd be so weird to think you'd be coming down a river and having a lynx swim across something like the Tanana. They would just go.
Yeah, those things scoot. They will go long distances. They'll disperse long distances.
And no one ever sees them.
Well, now that we've got collars on, though.
No, I'm saying, but it's like, when you see that, like, wait, how could you never see, what I mean?
Oh, I
you
see
think of
what
them
you mean.
always holed up in some little thicket because you just go your whole life and don't lay eyes on them.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, in my experience, unless you sort of come up right on them and you jump them, they'll just stand there and kind of look at you and hunker down, and it's really easy to miss them.
So you've approached them wearing the collar? When you've approached your collared cats?
Not the ones that we have collared right now, but just being out there so much, I've come across a lot of lynx.
Oh, you have?
I mean, a lot for seeing a lynx.
Yeah. So this is outside of ones that you've caught, and outside the ones that you were guided to because you knew where they were because they have a collar on. You've bumped into lynx?
Yeah.
How many times?
I don't know, a handful of times.
Really? Just bumped into them?
Yeah, I bumped into collared lynx, not using the telemetry, not trying to, but bumped into them. Summer before last, I had a cool sighting where I was hiking into the wilderness to scout for deer season, and I got to our camp and looked up, and there was a lynx that sort of jumped away. Yeah, it was very cool, and it was extra.
You're kidding me, really?
No, it was extra special too because I was in a new burn area, but I was in a fire skip and
scouting for deer, and there you saw one.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to do with your research.
No, yeah, yep.
He's jealous.
Sure, it wasn't a bobcat.
That was my question.
I'm positive. I got the rear view and I saw that tail.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you knew what you were looking at.
Yeah.
In an area where they got plenty of food, like what's a good lifespan? If they don't have some unfortunate thing happen.
Yeah, maybe 7 years. 7 or 8 years. Yeah.
How are you guys trapping them?
This is good.
Yeah. So this is what I love.
Oh, can you put in whether Mercer Lawing ever told you anything helpful?
We've been talking a lot. Yeah.
He gets excited about catch a cat.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. It's fun to talk with him because we both do. Yeah.
All right. Lay it out. How you catch one?
Okay. Let's see. So, like I said, there are maybe 60 in Washington. Our study area is, I don't know, maybe 100,000 acres. So that's a lot of space.
How many are in that study area? If you had to take a ballpark.
If I had to take a ballpark, I mean, last year at this time when I was on the podcast, we hadn't started trapping. And I would have been hopeful that there were maybe 4 or 5.
In 100,000 acres.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we've got some Lynx on air and I've spent 3 months tracking them out in that landscape. We know our collared lynx are, contrary to what we thought might be happening, making their entire home range, their entire living within the burn, which that's really cool because that says to us there's something about the configuration of this burn where there are fire skips, where there aren't, or maybe it's that there's places that are regenerating enough that that's actually at this point really rich habitat. Whatever it is, which is what we're going to find out, is making it so that lynx are living entirely within the burn.
Got it. Instead of just ducking in there now and then.
Exactly.
So 100,000 acres, and you're going to take a like you can do this too. I'd be surprised if it was more than what?
Okay, I'd be surprised if it was more than 16.
Ooh.
But I'd be surprised if it was less than 9.
Because you guys trapped your asses off in cow hunting.
We caught 4 in 2 months. And then we got a bonus cat this fall, which was super exciting.
How does one get a bonus cat?
Well, okay, so I'll explain how we normally trap. So this is what we're doing to our official season, and this was how I was taught to trap lynx, and how I've always done it. It's snowmobiling every single day. We're out there. We're riding around 100 miles a day. We're covering ground, and we're looking for tracks. You get really good at snowmobiling and tracking at high speed. We're looking for tracks.
You know what you want to see.
Exactly, and you start getting an idea of, all right, I see tracks here regularly, or I see, and they're crossing, a saddle here, or crossing down a drainage here, crossing the road here, or they're just using this road as a corridor, or maybe this is good habitat and you can see where they're hunting along. They like to use roads, and then they'll sort of pop over to the edge of the road. You'll see where they put their little butt down and sit, and they're looking for snowshoe hares, and they'll do that along the road. So you know where they're hunting too. Once you find little honey holes that you think are going to be good, then we set a trap. And our traps they're box traps. We made them ourselves. They're made out of, this was not our invention, but it's just a cheap-ish way to do this. But it's a PVC pipe frame, and then we wrap it with chicken wire. I had a local welder weld us up some just thin metal frame doors, and that goes into a PVC pipe frame. It slides up and down, so it's a guillotine type door. Here's where it gets a little wacky. It sounds like a Rube Goldberg, but it works. It works really well. We've got in the back of the trap a little fishing line trip line. So it's in the back quarter of the trap. That fishing line spans the it's such that when an animal goes in there and reaches for the bait that's behind it, they're going to hit it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that goes up to the top of the trap, that fishing line, where there's a mouse trap wired onto the trap.
It's getting very Rube Goldberg.
Very, yeah. Tied mouse traps with a little fake cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Tied.
That's the brand you like.
That's the, yes. Well, you tie the fishing line to the fake cheese. The door has paracord that is holding it up. That paracord goes back to the mouse trap. It's got a loop in the end.
You got a razor blade
Yep.
glued to the mousetrap bail.
It's not quite that bad.
This is like the game Mousetrap.
The loop goes over the arm of the mousetrap so that when you set the trap, it doesn't make it go off. The door is being held up by the rope that is being held in place by the set trap. And when a lynx or a bird or anything hits that trip line, it pulls the cheese down, trap goes off, releases the door, and it drops.
Is that door weighted so it drops quick?
It weighs enough just because it's got that metal frame.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Everything in the design of our trap is also geared towards really making sure our animals are safe. So we don't want a super heavy door that should it go off early,
Bang
it could,
'em.
yeah.
What are you baiting and luring with?
Oh, we're using all kinds of different lures, but I like to have, well, let's see. We're using roadkill deer. And the reason we're using roadkill deer is that it's usually readily available. Right now, we're hurting for bait. We are desperate.
Why not beaver meat?
I've used that in the past, and I love using that because it's got a nice smell. But our state vet advises not to, just in case of disease transfer. And so we're using,
because they're going to get in there and eat that bait.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got
and so I've used that
meat.
for deer meat. So we're constantly on the lookout for roadkill. We've got a whole routine. I think everybody in our
You got to hunt
community-
your own roadkill?
Oh yeah. Well, we've got our whole community is looking out for us because we've posted it everywhere. We're desperate because, like here in Bozeman, we haven't gotten a ton of snow, and so the deer haven't all pushed down to the valley bottom.
You ever find anyone who's a little too good at getting deer meat?
I have been.
Carmen's like, I don't know. Just another one jumped out in front of my truck.
No, we're getting so desperate that I'm like, good people. They need to drive faster or something. So we get calls right now, and right now we're desperate. We're going at any time of the day because it is cutthroat right now.
Really?
We've had calls.
Roadkill competition.
Oh my God. We've had calls where somebody's like, fresh roadkill, corner of blah, 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 this creek. We zoom down there and it's gone. People are salvaging for the meat. And so there's so few roadkills.
It's not other researchers out there getting
Well,
it?
there are some other researchers that we're competing with. They're a Wolverine project. We've got to compromise though. They can have the head because that's not super meaty, but they like that for the Wolverines because they can't. It's just a little more of a puzzle, and they have to work harder to get at that, so it lasts longer.
I was going to ask that, like, what other predators are in the area that might be attracted to those traps, like wolverines, wolves,
I was going to ask
lions.
about bycatch for sure, but let her finish the bait and lure, and then I want to get to bobcat,
right?
To bycatch.
Yeah.
You're using flagging?
Oh yeah.
CDs, wings. What do you use?
Let's see. So we always do a little eye catch. I've used CDs. I like what we usually use now, just because it's super easy, is that flashing bird tape for like you'd put up in an orchard. You just hang a little of that. It flutters in the breeze really nice.
You know what someone told me recently drives him crazy? Bobcat's crazy. Is he takes peacock feathers. This guy lives in a state where you can't use game bird parts. He takes peacock feathers and sticks them.
Ooh.
Just in, because it's got that iridescence and the way they blow. He says it's like a magnet. That thing.
I have to try that.
You picture that little eye, eye shape on a peacock feather, just flickering in the breeze. He says it's like irresistible to him.
That's
they
awesome.
gotta come on. They wonder what that thing is. Yeah.
Well, we got new this year. Some little, I think they must be Christmas decorations or something, but it's shaped like an icicle, but it spins. Can you picture that? So it's flashy and it spins. We're gonna try those.
Can I turn you on to a new product you might like?
Oh, please do.
Are you aware Tom Miranda and someone else, they make this thing, they're not legal here. It's a mouse emitter, a mouse noise.
Oh, squeaker.
Have you tried squeakers?
Oh, we got squeakers. We got squawkers.
You guys are high tech.
When you've got 9, maybe 10 lynx on 10,000 acres that you're trying to catch.
You're throwing the works at
Oh
them.
yeah, big time.
You ever worry that it gets a little too busy around your set?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
And are you
then I
using,
freak
a
out.
commercial lure too?
Yep, we buy lures. So
What do you like to use for lure?
we've got all kinds of stuff but I always like to have, because we're using deer, I like to have some castor in there. And then to appeal to, territoriality or breeding, we've got, squeeze bottles of lynx pea.
Oh, wow.
Catnipy stuff.
Dude,
So
you guys
Mercer's
got
Cage
everything.
Magic. Oh, we've got a whole drawer. I'm a huge
Labeled attractants.
Well, we had to move. So the long distance lures, we like something skunky. We'll put that up over the trap.
Got it.
And like a lot of people, Gusto is a great brand of that, but it is potent.
Me and Seth were messing with a little Gusto
Oh
today.
yeah,
You
little
messing with
Gusto's
Gusto?
good. Oh hell yeah, I've used that on. I mean, universally, that stuff is great. But it can be.
So you're like all checked out.
Oh my god!
I mean, there's nothing. There's I just hear I'll talk to bobcat trappers, and this is all stuff they bring up. So it's funny that you're like onto all these.
Oh yeah, a little skunk is good, but we that you can order all of these things online, and it's usually not a problem. But the Gusto you can smell, and I did have the post office once be like, next time you order that, it'll be on the back porch. You're gonna have to go around for that.
If you want, I have it here in the parking lot, and I'll happily give it to you. I have a bottle of skunk essence and beaver castor blend
mixed together.
Did you fly or drive?
I flew.
Uh-huh.
That might be a little iffy. Yeah, we get so used to the smell that we don't smell it. But
oh, you know what? Can I tell you something real quick that I didn't mention? How did I miss this, Corinne? We were recently telling a story about the world's greatest TSA agent who, instead of stealing people's knives, we couldn't tell what state this happens in. Instead of stealing people's knives, she instructs them to put them in the drop ceiling of the bathroom. And someone went up there to get their knife back, and there was several other knives up in the drop ceiling. This guy was talking about moving from Australia, and he's moving from Australia to the U.S., so he's trying to bring guns and ammo. I don't know why he didn't buy new ammo when he got here, or new guns when he got here, but he's trying to move guns and ammo from Australia. And in Australia, they somehow tell him to put the ammo in a carry-on. And he's like, that can't be right. To the customs people, like, no, you have to put it in the carry-on. So he gets in the Australian version of TSA, has to confiscate it from him to be destroyed. He later gets to the U.S., and one of his bags is missing. One of his bags didn't make it. So he files for a lost bag, and then when the bag turns up, it has all of his ammo in it.
Oh.
Someone had taken pity on him, pulled his bag, put his ammo back in it, and sent it along its way on a later flight rather than destroying the guy's ammo.
Wow.
Very civilized.
Yeah, it's like, in Christmas you do happy stories in the news. Good news.
It's a heartwarmer.
Where I buy gas, they have a thing, the pump plays you happy news stories.
Cheddar News.
You find yourself just standing around watching those for a while?
Just filling your cup on good news.
I'm annoyed. But there used to be this person called like Ava Menendez or something.
Oh,
She'd tell you how to make
that's on the Cheddar
you
News.
get like a jar and put some marbles in there for decoration or whatever. And then or how to not be so stressed out. But today it was some dude telling happy news. It was called Good News.
I've just never noticed that I've never paid enough attention to notice that it's all good news.
It's called Good News.
I've just never paid enough attention to realize that it's called good
we
news.
scooped him because this would be good news about the guy's ammo. That's all.
Yeah.
This reminded me of that.
Sure. Yeah.
You taking my skunk scent home.
Yeah, it could be problematic.
Remind me of that. You don't want to do that.
Well, I mean,
you know that thing that happened on that Alaska Airlines flight the other night? Ooh.
I heard about that
Imagine
as
if your
I was
skunk
boarding
essence
a plane.
blew up on a plane. They'd have to ground all them planes.
Yeah, we have an official office now, right in downtown Winthrop, which is the town we live in, and we were told we needed to put the Gusto outside because you walk in and it smells like straight up a hot box.
How do you get Lynx urine?
F&T or Minnesota.
They got it there.
Oh, yeah.
So it must be trappers up in the far north selling
Yeah,
it.
I guess so.
Huh.
We got all kinds.
What do you guys pay? Is a bottle of Lynx urine really expensive?
It's not, well, in the amounts that we're using it adds up.
It seems like it's got to be like a really limited supply?
I don't know how
out
limited
there.
it is. Yeah, I don't know.
So you
But
buy it comes in a bottle.
Comes in a bottle. Got to make sure they often don't have good lids, and so everything usually smells like Lynx pee.
You like the Lynx peas here?
And yeah, so we've got squirt bottles of that. Mix in a little glycerin so it doesn't freeze.
Oh, yeah.
You need to do that.
Yeah, that's good.
I got some glycerin on my counter.
Keeps freezing.
Yeah.
It does?
It keeps it from freezing. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, let's say you know how they sell your pee comes in those bottles, like, I don't know, what is it, 10 ounces? How much glycerin you put in there?
I don't know.
Someone
good amount.
else does it?
No, you just buy it and you can mix it up.
No, I'm saying, how much glycerin do you shoot in there?
Oh, I would
a tablespoon?
No, more than that.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah. Just depend. Yeah. I don't know. The other.
So you go to a Trapper's Supply House and buy glycerin too?
You can. Yeah, you can order it. I
have a bottle. I'm just curious how you guys do it.
Oh yeah, we just order it.
Do they ever wonder what you guys are doing when you're ordering all this equipment?
No, but we order enough that they write us nice notes and give us free hats and stuff.
And they're never like, why are you, do you know you're not, do they never let you know, like, you're not allowed to trap lynx where you're at? Like, there's no
They don't know we're trapping lynx. I mean,
Who do you use?
F&T or Minnesota Trap Line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. We just go on there and try new things. And all those, I'm such a sucker, all those descriptions, you're like, this is the magic bullet. They make them sound so good.
You'll read those lure descriptions?
Oh, yeah. And they all feel like this is the one. I'm a total sucker. So we got all kinds of
My cat's
stuff.
tripled with.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, great, that's what I need. So we've got all of our lures and we try to change those up. But yeah, always a caster, some pea or lynx glands.
Are you using cameras on your traps too?
We sometimes, not very often. We're just beating cheeks and running and gunning so much out there that it would just often
you don't want
doesn't
to fiddle
feel like
with
we
the
have
camera
time.
too.
Yeah.
And you probably don't have cell service anyway, so you can't get cellular cameras.
No.
And do you get lynx that work the set but just never commit?
Oh, that's the norm.
Really?
Oh my God.
What do they want to do?
Not go in the cage.
They'll circle downwind, or they'll even come up to the door, or what? Like, what's the hang up for them?
Various things. I mean, let's see. For example, we had a cat last year that we could not catch. We tried everything. We threw all sorts of things at him. We, just different variations in our sets. And he would often twice a day. So we'd come on the line in the morning. There'd be fresh tracks of him walking by the traps. You could tell he was spending enough time around there that he was checking them. He was checking out the scene. He certainly was not going in and poking his head in or anything like that. But
Would he get
very
on it?
Close. No.
Okay. So he knew that thing was bad news.
Yeah. And I like to, so when we put our trap in the snow, we sort of, we pack snow around it. I like to make sure there's plenty of snow in the bottom so they're not feeling that chicken wire or anything funky. And then we put boughs along the side just to give it that sort of tunnel look, kind of, like a cat likes a paper bag or something. That's going to be sort of exciting. But it also just keeps snow from blowing in and piling up in your trap, gives them a little thermal protection if they're in there. And then on the top, we've got a piece of clear plastic, and that's, again, to protect the cat in case there's a thaw and it gets wet. We don't want them getting wet. And then we pile boughs on that, and I like to make it so it would be unattractive for a cat to jump on top because that would set off the trap.
Yep.
And worst case scenario would be, say there's a mom and kitten and mom's going in the trap and then a kitten jumps on it and the door, closes and spooks her, and then you're 10 steps behind where you were.
Yep.
So yeah, I try to make it unattractive for them to jump on top of the trap. But this cat would just sort of check it out, mosey on. We got, camera footage of him just walking right past, just breezing on by.
Like not even stopping. He just comes through, but then takes off.
Yeah. Like he's just walking by, maybe looks at it, but keeps going.
Yeah.
And he was driving us nuts. I got a little obsessed. And he would then, we'd go out to the rest of our line, be out all day, be coming back, and there'd be fresh tracks. In the
daytime?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of our trappers saw him just sauntering down the road, right by one of our traps. Never could get him. That brings me to our bonus cat this fall. We had maybe a little bit of a vendetta, and we were like Moby Dick. He was our white whale. So we decided to do just a little bonus trapping. And so this fall, before the snow even flew, I went out there and I wanted to condition him to the traps. And this is a technique that is used in cougar trapping and bobcat trapping for research, but I'd never used it for lynx. And so I took a full quarter, so a nice big chunk of meat. I drilled a hole in the bone, cabled it, and staked it down. So nothing could come, wolves couldn't come and take it.
Cable it through the bone.
Yeah. I didn't want, because bears were still out. Sure. I didn't want somebody dragging it off.
Yeah.
So I staked that sucker down. Then I set a trap maybe 6 feet away. The door was tied open. It was just there and ready to go. So the idea was a lynx could come, start nibbling on that bait, get a little taste for what we've got, and get used to the trap being there.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a camera on it. So I set 4 of those stations in this area where I knew this lynx went a lot. 3 nights later, I checked the camera and he'd come and started eating that bait. And so
what else showed up on that bait?
Gray jays, nothing else.
Got it.
So I moved it closer to the trap. So it was partly in the door. Waited. He came back, ate some of that. I was like, oh, buddy.
Yeah.
It's on. And within a week, we probably could have done it faster, but it just worked out that within like a week and a half, he was eating bait that was in the middle of the trap. And then once I saw that night, I put at all the bait stations meat in the back of the trap. And he came that night and we caught him just the first night that the traps were actually set.
Mature cat?
Oh, beautiful.
Big old cat.
Biggest cat we've caught in Washington. He was 31 pounds.
You pelted him out.
No, he was a beautiful, just really nice cat. I mean, just holding his head.
How old do you think he was?
He wasn't that old. Maybe 3 to 5. It's really hard. We age them just based on how much wear they have on their teeth, but it's rough. It's really hard to tell. But he wasn't an old grandpa by any means.
And you fitted him with a collar?
Put a collar on him, and he's out and about.
Did he just get the hell out of town when you let him go?
No.
Really?
He so we let him go. He jumped out of the trap and then just stopped and then just sauntered off.
But his ass is never going back in a trap now.
Well, here's the thing. The first lynx will and other animals too will get trap happy where they realize
they're like, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah, they're like, okay, I can
got a good meal out of it.
Yeah, exactly. I can go in that trap, get a pound or two of free meat. They'll come and let me go in the morning. So we had the first.
It doesn't just burn them out.
I've done worse for a good meal.
No, it makes sense. The first cat that we caught.
Yeah, but imagine how scary it's got to be when a person shows up.
It's worth it, apparently. I mean, that's a lot of meat, and it's there every night. And if you let them out early, they can go to another trap for that afternoon. We've had that happen.
Trap.
That's what I like. Great. How it like. That cat was real hard to catch. Is there other cats you've just caught over and over again? Or?
Right. So the first.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me you had one you can't keep away, right?
Right. The first lynx that we caught last winter, he was like that. His personality was such that he was just not as cautious, and he went right in the trap. I think probably the first time he saw one of our traps, he went in. He ate the bait. We came the next morning. We processed him. We let him go. And I don't remember how long later, but he figured it out. And then from then on, it was almost every morning he'd be in a trap, and we'd have to let him go. And so,
he's getting all fat.
He's gonna start following you home.
He's got like rolls of fat.
Yeah,
on his
he
forehead.
hears our snowmobile come, and he's like, "Oh, they're setting a new trap over there. Got to check that out." So we had to just start ripping traps out of his home range as fast as we
Seriously?
could. Yeah, because it was
something might happen to him eventually, right?
Well, I guess there could be some risk of that, but we're really careful. But he was just bunging up our trap line, and because he's collecting data now, and so he was ruining his data. We had to throw that out.
His data was like your deer bait.
Yeah, if we run an analysis, it'd be like, well, lynx select trap lines and traps.
Yeah.
So, so we try not to let it come to that, but he's kind of putting a wrench in our game this year because there's a female that he overlaps with that we've gotten on camera that we'd love to trap, but it's kind of a no-go zone because we know he's just going to be...
Oh, he'll just plug it all up.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever... Okay, there's bycatch. So I want you to do bycatch.
Okay.
I want you to do what the differences you see in how these things move and what they're doing once you get a collar on them. There's another thing I wanted to ask about.
I want to know what they got to worry about, like as far as
predators.
What's killing them.
Well, yeah, that's a good one. So bycatch, how they're acting, and then when you get a collar on, they die. What are they dying from?
Yeah.
And how many do you have collared?
Right now we have 3 on air.
Okay.
Yeah.
On air, Randall.
Collars are functioning. They're giving us data.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So I already forget the first one.
Sorry.
Bycatch.
Who all turns up in your traps?
We get a lot of gray jays.
They get in there?
They get in there.
I guess they'll walk in there, yeah.
Oh yeah. And then once they find a trap, they can be kind of a pest. But that is one of the drawbacks of our trigger system, that mousetrap system, is that it's so sensitive that a gray jay goes in there and they're setting the trap off. Weasels go in there certainly, but they can get out. There's enough, they can just squeeze out.
But they throw the door first.
Sometimes they're also so short they often go under.
Got it.
Under the trip line. We get snowshoe hares. What
are they after? Just whatever.
Well, they'll eat the boughs off of our traps, but they also it's a little hiding spot. They'll go in there. Yeah. I've caught a snowshoe hare in a trap, and then it was just being circled by a lynx trying to get at that snowshoe hare.
Really?
Yeah, so that kind of makes you want to vomit. Yeah.
That's a rough night, man.
Yeah.
So did you add him to the bait pile or did you let him go?
We let him go.
You did?
Yeah. Let's see. But more exciting bycatch, we caught a bobcat last year, which I was surprised it didn't break out of that trap because
That was what Mercer was saying because he's used to bobcats.
Right.
I remember he was when I first connected you guys, he was saying that he was worried that wouldn't hold them, and you were saying, well, lynx are chill compared, like they don't fight the trap.
Right. Right. Yeah, and so bobcats and lynx have pretty different personalities, for lack of a better word, where bobcats are just, I call them flying demons, because especially in like a foothold, they are just going nuts. Their stress response is the fight or flight. And in a box trap, they're all over the place. And I've had them bust out of, manufactured all metal traps.
Okay.
Lynx,
did you put a collar on the bobcat you caught?
No.
So
we're not interested.
No one wanted that? No.
Okay. Lynx tend to go into freeze as their stress response. They'll test the walls of the trap a little bit, but they're not working hard on getting out. And so they'll tend to just sort of hunker down a little bit more in the trap. So that's why we can use these traps. I would not use them for any other type of cat. Yeah.
Wolverine's going to be out of there in a heartbeat.
Oh, in a second. Yeah. A fisher would be out of there in a second.
Have you caught those?
We actually did. So we,
or almost caught one or whatever.
Well, I've caught them a lot lynx trapping in other areas in Maine. Here, very surprising because we don't have technically on the east slope of the Cascades in our area a population of fisher, but we did catch one. Luckily, it wasn't in one of our chicken wire traps. We were borrowing some manufactured traps, and it was in one of those. So that was pretty exciting to have.
Added him to the bait pile.
Definitely not.
No. What about marten?
I have caught lots of marten. Either we're not catching marten in our traps or they're getting out. I think we're not catching them because, again, we're in a burned area, so there's not a ton of marten.
Got you.
Yep. Yeah. Let's see. Other bycatch. That's
no red foxes.
Nope. We also barely, if any, have those.
And no coyotes.
No. A canid is going to be, they do not want to go into a box trap.
Yep.
They're way too wary.
They might pass through, but they're not going to put their head in there.
Yeah. I've had now bobcat trapping. I've had cougars go into the traps, but they're so big that the door just falls on their butt.
Oh, they back out.
Yeah, and they just back out. But they can be a problem.
And you're doing most of your trapping after the bears have denned up, so they're not trashing your traps.
Yeah, that's a big part of why we trap in winter, so we're not having to deal with that. Now this fall, I was willing to sacrifice a trap or two if we were going to catch this. Meant we were going to catch this lynx. Yeah.
So what are you seeing on like anything surprising in how they're how far they're going, or like that you let them go and they kind of hang out in the immediate vicinity, or they go to the next state, or what do they do?
I mean, what's been surprising to me is, like I said, that they're not moving that far, that they're making home ranges entirely within this burn. And so far, I mean, we only have 3, cats on air, but so far they are not giant home ranges, which could indicate that it's decent habitat. They're not having to go super far. This burn is big enough that as we sort of move our trap line north, maybe the conditions are different up there, and maybe it won't be the same story, but at least the lynx we have on air right now are making a pretty tight home range, which is cool.
When do they rut? What's their breeding season?
March, February, and then they have kittens May, June.
Have you, maybe it probably doesn't work. If you had a female and then at that time and you knew where they were, it might be plausible that there'd be like more males in that area, or is that not, that's not something that really factors in?
Oh, like if we saw
like she's like
female...
a Judas, she winds up being like a Judas animal, right? Like that with her,
right.
You know that in her zone there's gonna be cats coming through.
Yeah, I mean they all move so much. If I knew where a female was, I'd certainly be setting traps there anyway, because we want to get female cats on air. You want to have males and females.
Is it all males on air right now?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. You don't have any females.
Males are more apt to go in a trap in general.
So have you had any cats get a mortality signal? Have you had any cats die while collared?
Yeah, and that was a bummer because it was the one female that we caught last year.
Okay,
so we caught a female, and it was a really cool handling. It was just, you know how some times when you're hunting, there's a deer you get that just feels special because of everything around it, the scenery, the day, the whatever. This was kind of one of those moments with this cat. We caught this female lynx, and she had a kitten with her, and this was in March. And so this kitten is, pretty almost full grown. It's almost
and the kitten's outside of the trap.
It's outside of the trap.
The female's in.
Yeah. And so I was riding my snowmobile, checking the line, and I'm looking up at the next trap, and I just see it wiggle a little bit, and I just jam on the brakes, and I go up there, and there's this female lynx in the trap, and I can see kitten footprints around it where he's been, trying to be close to her. And as I was waiting for the rest of the team to meet me to do the handling and collaring, I heard and saw that kitten was kind of checking in with her, and he was just sitting up on a hill above her. Plus, it was just this...
Making what noise?
It's like a little sort of bird, little...
Like, make the noise.
Mm. Can you
kind of what we do around here.
I'll do it till I get it right.
Okay. No, more like... yeah.
Got it.
Now, they make some real ugly noises. This was probably one of the cuter noises they make. But in general, no. In general, they sound like they're throwing up or something. They kind of make this yowling demon noise.
When you got them cornered?
Nope, just talking to each other.
Oh, you'll hear it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so...
Hit me with the demon noise.
It's like... Bleh.
Oh, is that right? Like that weird?
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay.
It's not a cute cat noise.
Like someone wouldn't be like, that must be a lynx if they heard it.
You'd be like, what was that?
I got it. Yeah, I got you.
There's some cool YouTubes where you can hear them talking.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm sitting there. I'm alone with this cat. I'm at a distance. We like to try and keep them as calm as we can because it's a better experience for them. The drugs works better. Everything just goes better if they're calm. So I'm a distance away, but it's this cold, beautiful, snowy, high mountain day, this sort of meadow with a creek in it, and then these trees and burnt trees along the side of it. It's snowing. It was just one of those moments. And then the crew arrived, we processed this cat, and when we
just for the audience, can you go like quick rundown of what processing is?
Sure.
Like blood samples or
flesh it and stretch it.
Well, yeah.
Flesh it and stretch it, baby. So when we're handling any wildlife species, it's our professional responsibility and our ethics to do it in the most humane way possible.
Yeah, and you're dealing with a federally threatened species too, right?
Exactly. And so we baseline no matter what species we're trapping, we have a really high bar for how we do things and how we try to minimize stress. And obviously minimize risk and all of that. Because
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry. A friend of mine was doing duck banding, and I don't want to tell you who said this, but he was doing duck banding, and his boss told him, if you're not killing birds, you ain't working hard enough. That's ducks. No one's going to tell you that in your Lynx area.
Nobody's going to tell you that in the
It was
Lynx
just a
area.
funny thing that he remembers being told, because he was like they were doing those nets, and everything was very dainty, and the guy's like, listen, we got to get some birds banded here. Like, there's going to be some.
Yeah. I mean, I think I get the gist of what he was saying, but I think there's a little bit of a tide change.
No. I'm not giving you professional advice. I was just observing that.
I'm just remarking on that.
Okay, yeah.
And standing up for the wildlife profession. I think that we're getting a little we're getting more thoughtful about these things and refining techniques. So anyway, we have a really high bar of how we do things and animal safety and all this. So everything we do is geared around minimizing stress. So when we do a handling, it's all whispering. It's all reading the cat's body language, using our body language to seem as minimally aggressive and threatening. And so when we've got a cat in the trap, first thing we do is we put a big sheet over the trap. That just helps calm the cat. It just cuts down on visual stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we have to drug the cat, or we can't handle it. So the way we're doing that is we've got it's called a syringe pole. It's a pole, and on the end of it is a plunger, and you put your drugs in a syringe, but the pole is now the plunger, if that makes sense.
Mm-mm.
So that when you so that when
you push on it a little bit.
Yep, you wait until the cat's in the right position. You want to get it ideally in its butt, right in its haunch, and that meat there. And you slowly bring it in the trap, and you just poke it in the butt and just push a little bit, and that's it.
And what's that drug?
We are using a mix of ketamine and medetomidine. And so what that does is
puts them in the K-hole.
Puts them in the K-hole. But you don't want to use just straight ketamine because it makes them really rigid. There's risk of seizure and different side effects. It's a very safe drug, but we can do a little bit better and give them a more relaxed sedation.
And are they out or just groggy?
They are out. You want them out. I mean, think about if you were going to get an ear tag and be handled by this alien species, you'd want to be out.
No memory.
Yeah, you want to be out. So we drug them, and they are unresponsive. You could do surgery on them if that's what you were doing. Obviously, we're not. You drug them. You bring them out of the trap once they're ready. Again, it's always just minimizing that stress, and so we put an eye mask on them, and we're minimizing even like touching it because that's just more stimulation. And if they are more stimulated, the drugs don't work as well. They've got to burn through more stress, and so the last thing you want is your cat waking up before you're ready. And so we're doing everything to just make that a smooth, calm ride for the cat. And so the handling, what we're doing is the primary goal is to get this GPS collar on them. They're little collars that will take a GPS point on collection days every 30 minutes. And that shoots up to space and then shoots down to my computer. And so every couple days I'll get an update of what that cat's been doing. So that's our primary goal. And
that thing eventually falls off or what?
Yeah, they have a little release mechanism that you can program that does a tiny, tiny little like explosion, but on a micro scale.
Yeah.
And it just parts the piece that's holding it together, and it'll drop off.
Really?
Yeah. So
February.
February.
And then you could go grab it if you wanted
exactly. Yeah. So February 2nd, hopefully that's what we'll be doing. That's when our collars will drop off.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. Coming right up.
Yep.
Huh.
So it's getting the collar on, but you're also you've got this cat that needs it doesn't, the drugs can depress their respiration and temperature and things like this. And so you're having to regulate and make sure that the cat's safe. And so is
that collar valuable? You need to go get it because it's valuable, or you just go get it because of?
We will theoretically have had all the data on it, but it's just another way to get it. You can have them refurbished. Doesn't save you that much money, but yeah, they are expensive.
But going and getting it it's not like a financial reason to go get it.
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so during the handling, a really important job is to be monitoring temperature, respiration, heart rate, these sorts of things, so that if things start to drift out of, the correct zone of temperature, heart rate, and respiration, we can correct that.
And you have a drug that helps with that? Like, let's say you OD'd it on accident.
That's really unlikely. The drugs we use have a huge safety margin.
I see.
We're not going to OD it. Yeah. But there are drugs. There's different things that could happen. For example, I had a bear, and this is more common in bears for whatever reason with some drugs, where the breathing got a little too shallow and interrupted for my comfort. I had a drug with that, just gave it a little bit of that, boom, started breathing well. So we have tools for these common things that might go wrong. We've got drugs for if they have a seizure, things like that. Or, if it's temperature, it's putting snow in its armpits. Or if it's
also to get too hot.
Yeah. If it gets too hot. If it gets too cold, we always have them in blankets on a foam pad. If they get really cold, we have socks, and we can put little hand warmers in there and put socks on all of its feet. So we're prepared for a lot. But these things, hopefully by keeping that stress level down, that's one really good way to make sure things are just smooth and steady.
Are you also taking samples for like DNA, genetics, disease, stuff like that, or?
We're not taking blood. We're not looking at disease. If we had a cat that something seemed wrong, we'd certainly take a lot of notes about that. If it had an unusual parasite load, we'd probably collect that.
And you just know that from scat analysis? Like, how'd you know if it had a parasite load?
Well, if you see them. They sometimes have tapeworms, or if they had an exorbitant amount of ticks or fleas or lice or something like that, we'd probably collect that.
Got it.
We do collect DNA. So when we give them a ear tag, we first, rather than just jamming the ear tag through, you take a little biopsy punch and it makes a little hole, and then we've got that little tissue sample. So collar, a couple DNA samples.
No tattoos.
No tattoos. No need for that. We're not pit tagging.
What's the ear tag for?
The ear tag is so that if it shows up on a camera, you might be able to read that number. It's also got my phone number on it, so if somebody finds its carcass, they could call us and we'd know what was going on. Years down the road, if the collar has come off and we retrap it, we know who it is.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you never finished. You were saying the female.
Oh yeah.
You don't have on. It's no longer on air.
Right. So. Right. Yeah. So I was describing what a cool handling that was, and we let her go, and there was this just incredible moment of getting to watch her and her kitten reunite and go off. And we're ecstatic about this because now we've got a female lynx using the burned area, and to know what habitat a female lynx is using is really, that's just gold, because they're the ones reproducing. And so if there are things we can learn about how to support a female lynx, all the better. So we're really excited about that. We're really hopeful that maybe we'll see where she's denning, and be able to learn about that type of habitat. Anyway, a month later, these collars, if they stop moving for 8 hours, will give a mortality signal, and that pushes an email to me. So I wake up Sunday morning, check my email, and there's a mortality email.
What's the subject line?
It might have been the number and mortality or something.
It comes in an email.
Yep, comes in an email and just makes your
we
stomach
regret to inform you.
Yeah,
such a weird email, right?
Yeah, it's not one you want.
Yeah.
I mean, mortalities are fascinating.
No, I got you, but just the delivery mechanism of an email.
Yeah.
Seems,
Yeah, they don't sugarcoat it or,
no one
or try
knocks
to
at
pad
the door.
that. No. So I shoot out there. Our season has ended, but there's still a ton of snow. And I went out there with a biologist colleague and friend, and it was just kind of a harrowing adventure to get to this spot. But once we got there, we were a little bit hamstringed because her collar was not transmitting a VHF, which that's the little radio beep beep that you can hone in on.
Yeah.
It's not worth explaining, but it wasn't on that day. So we get to the area where we know she is-ish, and
how big is this?
Maybe a 200-meter radius.
Yep.
But if there's snow on top of her, or if she's in a hole or something, those GPS points that she was spitting could be pretty off. Plus, it has just snowed that night into the morning. And so we get to this spot. We'd had to hike a bunch on the snowmobile trail. She's not very far from the snowmobile trail, but she's down in a little meadow with a creek in this burned area. And like I said, there's a fresh blanket of snow. And that right there is devastating for mortality site investigation, because so much of what you're learning is from track and sign that you're seeing around.
Yeah.
We're not going to have that. We start hiking down this creek, and there was a coyote that had gone through, and it must have been sometime that morning, because there wasn't much snow in its tracks. Those are the only tracks we're seeing, and we sort of note that. We get to the area where we think she is-ish, and it's just, there's zero sign of anything. I put my bag down and sort of rummaging around, and the guy I'm with is thinking about those coyote tracks, and he's starting to circle, and he sees those coyote tracks, he cuts them, and he thinks, I should just follow those tracks. And within very, very quickly, he saw where those tracks had gone, up to where a big log had fallen. But picture feet and feet of snow, and there's snow on the log, and it's sort of draping over the log. And so it's this snow cave with a little crack of space along the side of it, and then the front of it, you could see down into the snow cave. The coyote had come and stuck its head down in that little cave opening. And so that prompted him to also look in that cave opening. And that's where she was. So what he saw was the lynx, I wouldn't say curled up, but sort of flopped over a bit. Dead. Yeah, dead. And it looked as though she had intentionally gone under there to die. And so we pulled her out, and she was completely frozen. And we did an examination there. There was a slight abrasion on her face. That was all we saw. And so and like I said, there were no other track in sight. We couldn't backtrack to see, where
And the coyote just looked in there.
Just looked in there and moved on. That was it. So we thought, nothing obvious here. This isn't a predation event. We're not there. We have no clues other than she seemed to intentionally go under that log. And that always makes you think disease when they have sort of curled up in an intentional spot and just died. So we put her in my backpack, hiked her out, and then I shipped her to a lab to do a necropsy, because they can do all the pathology and test for different diseases. Turns out they didn't have to do that. They skinned her out, and in their examination found that cause of death was blunt force trauma, and so she had some broken ribs and some bleeding internally. And that's all we know. And we can speculate about how that may have happened, but we don't know. One idea is that because this was only about, 400 yards from the snowmobile trail, she could have been hit. They're not, that has happened before in other states that we know of. They get hit by cars. People, rip around up there. So that's one idea.
Got it.
Or, you can come up with any number of other sort of freak accidents that could have done
Like
it.
what? Not got hit by, not bit. They feel like
there were no puncture wounds.
I see.
No puncture wounds. I don't know. A snow cornice broke that it was standing on and it fell on a rock, or I don't know, kicked by a moose, which seems really unlikely to me, but that's been floated.
That's not that wild.
Some people. Well, I don't know. I just.
One time we killed a mule deer, and its whole underside was totally infected, and it was full of porcupine quills.
Oh yeah. Oof.
Like, what is the scenario? It walked over a porcupine, and the porcupine flap.
Yeah, probably.
So just weird, you know what I mean?
Weird stuff happens.
Only being that, like, who knows, man?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who knows?
I've seen some weird stuff out there. So you don't. It could have been anything. But anyway, that's all we'll know. So So we got a month of data from her, and that was it, unfortunately. I'm hoping, let's see, later that season, we caught a lynx kitten, and when I say kitten, it was almost a year old, but it was too small to collar. So we gave it an ear tag and sent it on its way. I don't know for sure. We don't have the DNA yet, but it was in her zone. That may have been her kitten. And so it will be interesting to see if he shows up this winter, if he made it through his, the rest of his year, having prematurely lost his mom. Yeah, we'll see.
Man, I could see that having a female and finding out what she does around denning season would be cool as hell.
Yeah, Lynx dens are really cool, and that's
what are they like? Like cracks and rocks, or
they will use a lot of different things. They often are in mature forest where there's lots of down logs, just total jackstraw, and they'll find a gnarly spot in there because that's going to protect them from cougar, or probably not cougars, but wolves. And so they'll find a gnarly spot in these just giant piles of logs and go into there. I've seen them in hollowed out stump, rock crevices, slash piles, in cut areas, upturned root wads. They need a nice bit of cover.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be really cool to have that.
Yeah.
How much do they got to worry about cougars and wolves?
They have to worry about cougars.
Yeah.
They have to worry about cougars, places where there's lots of fishers. That's been...
fishers will kill them?
Oh, yeah.
The mature ones?
I've been to several...
A fisher can outduke a...
They can... I mean, come on.
It's a weasel.
They're weasels, man.
Losing a lot of respect for lynx here.
A fisher can whoop a lynx.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been to several more lynx mortalities where it was a fisher, and one I can remember in particular.
They can whoop a porcupine.
Yep. So can a lynx or a bobcat.
The lynx will be able to do it?
Yeah, that's not a normal prey item, but they
They
can
do it.
Yeah. I've seen where a lynx was curled up in the snow, and then you see the fisher tracks come, and it basically just jumped it in its bed.
Huh.
They are, when you see them, and they
lickers.
Lynx look big. A lot of that's just lankiness, and they're so fuzzy, especially in the summer. Their average weight is the same as a bobcat, pretty much.
They're just lankier.
They're just lankier and fuzzier.
They look like something that if it got a little bit of blunt force trauma, it's not going to live.
Yeah, because
it's just they're just so spread out and slender, and
they're pretty
not meant
dainty.
to take a hit.
Yeah, when you pick one up, it's like, whoa, this is like a little bird. I mean, they're meant to float on the snow.
Yeah,
they're not climbers. Like they don't go into trees much, right?
They'll go into trees, but it's not like a daily thing by any means. Yeah. They'll just bed right in the snow and some cover. Yeah,
and they don't throw any claw mark on a track, right? It's just like a regular cougar or bobcat. Like their claws are retracted.
Well, I mean, like any felid, their claws retract, and so most often, probably, you're not going to see their claws register. But if they're in slippery substrate, and they need a little extra grip, they'll pull.
Oh, you'll see it come out.
Oh yeah. In fact, that picture you were talking about earlier, where there was a snowshoe hare tracks, and the lynx going after it. It was going up a steep bank, and you can see its claws.
Oh, really?
So they'll
click them out.
Yeah, it's like that guy and his toenails.
Oh, yeah.
Climbing up the tree.
John Newbanks.
Yeah. You use them when you need them. Yeah.
So tell me where Home Range Wildlife is right now. So you have a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And this is all done as a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
The nonprofit has employees. You're one of the employees at the nonprofit.
Yeah.
What is we've kind of followed you through your career a little bit.
Yeah.
Are you guys like in we're gonna make it? Is it you don't know what you're gonna be doing in 5 years?
We know what we want to be doing in 5 years.
Yeah.
We've got, all sorts of plans.
Yeah. But is Home Range Wildlife viable?
We are, according to the little you're starting a nonprofit, take this quiz with your board to see where you're at. According
There's like a thing
to that,
so you're starting a nonprofit.
Yeah. We are still in the struggle phase, which basically means it's hard work. We are having to hustle big time.
For money.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time. So it's not like we're just cruising financially. We're in the hustle phase, but that is not stopping us.
How many
from
employees
doing
you
a
got?
bunch. So right now there's 3 of us that are full time.
Mm-hmm.
So co-founder and I, and a super badass woman who started on the Lynx project, and we've kept her on. And then we've got seasonal techs. So we've got some seasonal techs. We wrap community scientists into our work. So we've got community scientists that will go out and help with the backtracking portion. So we part of the study is not just coloring, it's also going out and tracking lynx and recording their exact, really fine scale habitat use.
Yeah, you explain that backtracking because you don't want to bump them.
Exactly, yeah.
Backtracking ain't as fun as forward tracking.
Well, you're less likely to see the animal.
Yeah,
but
I know,
man,
yeah.
it is still fun. It
No,
is
I can
like,
picture it, but you kind of want to be like, well, let's just go after it and see if we
yeah,
can see it, right?
well, but then we're messing up the data,
Sure,
right?
Yeah. Then you spook it. And
Exactly.
Whatever, yeah. Or it
and
starts evading you.
Right.
Yeah.
And so part of what we're looking at also is from reading the tracks, what they're doing behaviorally, because that can help us figure out, okay, of the habitats that they'll use for various things, where are they hunting? Where are they trying to hunt? Where are they actually making kills?
Yep.
Where they're hunting and they're successful, that is like the best habitat.
When they kill a snowshoe, do they mop that whole thing up or do they leave something behind?
They will usually mop it up, except maybe a foot or two, the guts, and for whatever reason, a patch of the hide from the back, and that'll often have like hemorrhaging in it. You'll see where it was bit.
Oh, I see.
Mhm.
Yep.
Sometimes, usually they'll eat it, especially if there's not a lot of snowshoe hares around. They may cache it to save some for later, but usually they're just eating it.
When you find a lynx scat in the winter, is it white because the snowshoe hair?
Yeah, it has white hair in it, but it's not like
It's still
overall
dark.
white. Yeah,
It's still dark.
Yeah, the meat makes a really dark scat,
Got
especially
it.
the organs.
But you'll be on the tufts, you'll see that it's white.
Yeah, you can, if you picked it up and looked at it, you'd see it was white hair.
The white hair inside there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Little chunks of bone.
Little chunks of bone,
Yeah.
little toenails and stuff.
Yeah. So explain again where you guys are at on like long-term viability. You're struggling. The struggle phase.
We're in the
is what
struggle phase.
The results kick out struggle phase.
But I would say it's clear that we've got a lot of momentum and a lot of support from agencies, our community. We're partnering with a university on the project. So we've got a master's student on the project. But it's hard to raise money for a nonprofit. And we're not like this isn't the normal path. Usually wildlife research is done by universities or the agencies.
Yeah.
And so there are other organizations that do it, but this is somewhat unique. And so we're really lucky in that we are partnering with agencies and the universities, but a large part of our money also comes from fundraising. And so that's kind of a whole new ballgame for us.
Who's using all the data you're collecting? Are you turning it over to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service?
Yeah. So that's a huge part of our mission is to be doing research that is addressing what we see as really urgent conservation issues in our area. And so this whole project is geared towards having results that can inform land management and lynx conservation. Because for lynx, a large part of lynx conservation is habitat conservation.
But can home range wildlife exist as just a lynx research org, or at some point you're going to have to jump into something else?
I would love to make this a really long-term project because there's a lot of value in those long-term data sets. And that's also another part of our values is to be an organization that is really boots on the ground and have our research in biology be really based in the naturalist skills that we have. This is not universally true, but there's a trend towards a lot more modeling and this sort of, office-based research, which is really valuable, but it can't be at the expense of people who are out there on the landscape and who are good naturalists and who are there long-term.
Well, without your work, the modelers don't have anything to do. I mean, your work is what's going to tell them is the home range of a female.
It complements, right? Yeah. It complements, but there's
they have to have something to plug in.
They have to have something to plug in, but there's a lot out there they can plug in, and there's a lot out there. Like right now, like I was saying, this is kind of this whole new habitat paradigm with all the burns, and so it is so important that we're not only building models based on what we think we already know, but we're going back to the drawing board and learning from the landscape and the lynx. And again, long term, that's I think something that's also being somewhat lost in wildlife is there's so much turnover and people are hopping around. That sort of through line for an area where you've got bios that have been there for decades and have seen changes and been noting things, we're losing that somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
And we do not want to see that happen in the Met How. We're sort of the generation of biologists that have been there for decades and know that landscape intimately and have seen it change and are just good naturalists that like to be out there. And they're the ones that are going to notice, I'm not hearing as many XYZ bird, or, we're not, they're just noticing those changes. And that takes being out there and being there long term. And so that's what we want home range to be, because we're losing some of these long-term bios. They're retiring.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that there's somebody always watching there in the valley.
You know what I could use some help with? I was telling you my gripe before we started recording. They have everything south of us. They have as this lynx recovery area. Okay. And there's all these separate trapping regulations in the lynx recovery area.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've had fur bearer biologists tell me that most of the stuff in the lynx recovery area has never had a lynx and never will have a lynx.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely wrong habitat. I have
Are
a
you
friend.
talking about like Yellowstone, that area?
Well, no, it's everything around that. It's huge.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
more
it's
than just
everything
Yellowstone,
south
but
of town.
Okay.
Everything.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine in the Forest Service who's doing a lot of lynx work, he even said, our understanding of what lynx habitat has gotten very refined since that went into effect. He pictures sometimes down the road that could be eased up because it's just not representative of lynx habitat.
Mm-hmm.
He said if they go to do that, that'll get the hell litigated out of it.
Mm.
When they come out and say, you know what, we were wrong, this is lynx habitat, that's not lynx habitat, it'll get litigated.
Mm-hmm.
Because people will want to keep like restrictions in place. So the debate will get weaponized.
Mm-hmm.
I would love if you guys came in, collared a couple lynx, so people could see where they hang out and where they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're not down in the juniper and rock piles.
Yeah.
Do you agree or don't?
I mean, let me explain that with a little more nuance. So lynx.
Well, can I give you one more tidbit?
Let's get it.
I have a friend who's a lion hunter. He's been hunting lions here 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hunts all over the state. In 20 years, he's yet to cut a lynx track in this area.
Yeah.
Now, lest you think he doesn't think there's any lynx, when he goes to region 1, he sees more lynx tracks than bobcats and mountain lions combined.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not a guy that doesn't say there's no lynx tracks. He's like, the lynx recovery area ain't got lynx.
Yeah. So I was talking earlier that there's 5 populations. There's 6 areas that have been designated by Fish and Wildlife Service as critical habitat.
Mm-hmm.
And that one is not, there's not a known population there now. There have been intermittent sightings, but there's not a known breeding population there. It's possible that in the future there could be. It's possible. The other thing is that wild lynx are fairly specialized in their habitat, meaning boreal forest. They move so much that they'll use just about anything to move through.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'm not a land manager down there. I don't know the area and all that, so I can't say too much about it. But
I could say this. I could say, hey, you shouldn't be able to set certain kind of traps because little children generally aren't lost.
Mm-hmm.
But a little child could get lost anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you shouldn't have that set because how can we say that a little child wouldn't get lost
right.
and get caught in that set?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe.
Sure.
I've heard of little children getting lost.
Yeah. I don't know. You'll have to take it up with Fish and Wildlife.
I'm taking it up with you because you got to go collar some lynx. And even though there aren't any there, maybe
right.
you can cut one loose and see what it does. Right?
I'll try trapping anywhere.
Thank you.
So
that's all.
Okay. Good.
I have a huge list of gripes that I'd like to get addressed. This is like low. My first one is Universal Hunter's Orange Policy, just a hat.
Okay.
Somewhere below that
like
is this
that.
lynx recovery unit issue. But someday I'm going to get to all this.
All right. Well,
I'm going to take it up.
Fish and Wildlife should look for your letter.
Dear Fish and Wildlife Service, I have a problem. I think I know where that letter's going to wind up. They're like, where's the recycling bin?
No,
how do people find you and support your organization? I love what you guys do. I mean, it's like, and it really resonates with listeners who love it that people are out on the land, finding out, studying wildlife, right? Everybody's got their like myths about stuff and what lives where and what don't live where, and to have someone come and say, here's what lives there, here's how many, here's what they do. It's valuable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's information, right?
Yeah.
Like real information.
Exactly. And it's, well, yeah. So the work that we do is research. And so that I think sometimes is hard for the broader public to connect with, because it doesn't feel like this organization is directly helping that animal. We're doing the research. Yeah. That's one step, but a really important step in knowing how to manage and conserve species. And that's slightly more abstract. But I feel like in my short experience running a nonprofit that, and after last year's experience with doing the Trap a Cat fundraiser with you, I feel like I just have so much gratitude for the hunting and fishing community, because I feel like you guys get it. And that fundraiser was such a success because people really put out and saved us. You guys really saved us last year from having just our old ass sleds just completely die, and that would just shut us down. That's such crux equipment. And so the fact that this audience just gets that research and learning about wildlife populations and managing the populations is really valuable. Not just saving an individual animal is that just gives me a lot of hope that there's this audience that really understands that.
Can I tell you something? My brother, he's a fisheries researcher in Alaska, told me. He was one time describing to me the difference between Alaska and the lower 48. As he said, in the lower 48, you're in conservation phase, preservation phase, right? He said one of the things that makes being a researcher in Alaska different is we're still in discovery phase in a lot of ways. Like where are salmon? Like where are salmon? How many salmon are there?
Yeah.
What are these things doing?
Yeah.
And what's cool is you're in a case of you're facilitating discovery, right? It's like there's this cat that lives here. How many? I don't know. Where do they live? I don't know. How do they use the landscape? I don't know. It's like discovery science.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not sort of, it's not specifically like saving something. It's just trying to like understand our world, But I would say, especially in this case, it is, how do we save this species? Yeah. It leads to that.
Yeah.
It leads to that. Granted, I'm not trying to belittle it, but I'm saying it's like you're discovering things about, right?
Yeah.
You're discovering about how animals relate to their environment.
Yeah, that's true. It is. It's this, things have changed out there in the last 20 years. And so we're trying to catch up and learn that.
As far as saving them goes, if you had to make a prediction, like state of the lynx in the lower 48 and whatever, like 20 years or 50 years, like what would you be comfortable saying? Like
they needed to burn more stuff in 2006.
Like, are they doing well? Is it bad news? Is it good news?
It all depends on what we do.
Yeah.
If we do nothing, it's not looking great, especially for Washington. It is not looking great. Yeah, because of these just sweeping fires are just, the worry is that they burn enough in a short enough time frame, then that's skewing the landscape towards that recently burned, there's not much of that structure that we need type of landscape. Whereas if we can just have patches that burn here, then you've always got some of something out there, and you've got enough of that that structure, that forest structure that lynx and hares need, that you're supporting the population, but you've got enough burning going on that you are reinstilling some resilience onto that landscape, because all those little burns are acting like little speed bumps for subsequent fires. And so if we can figure out ways to, if we understand how lynx use burned habitat, then we know how much of that they need and how much we can spare for reinstilling that resilience to fire. Because it feels like opposing objectives when you talk about conserving lynx habitat, because they need that thick forest. That's a lot of fuels. And so when you're trying to save lynx habitat short term while simultaneously slow fires just for the ecology of the area, to bring that fire resiliency back and to save lynx habitat over the long term, it feels like you're in a rock and a hard place. But if we can find that sweet spot where we've got enough habitat for lynx now and we've got enough fire break and resiliency out there to save it long term, well, then that's going to be progress for lynx. Yeah.
Back to how people can find out information and be supportive. I
Yeah.
know we got the Trap-A-Cat thing.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so if you want to find out more just about home range in general, and like I said, we've got this research, but we also want to help address the issue in wildlife research where young, new biologists are sort of, a lot of the culture of this field is that you just sort of get thrown out there and you're having to learn on the job. And that does a couple things. It's often not safe. It's often costing you project equipment because you're out there snowmobiling and trying to keep up with the rest of the crew and you've never done it and you're just more likely to wreck, things like that. So that's safety and equipment. And it means if you're trying to learn just how to do the basic skills, then you're not maximizing how much data you're getting and it's not going to be as quality. So we're trying to offer, or we are offering, field skills courses. And so those are offered in the summer and they're really cool. They're mammals focused right now, but for example, you can sign up for a course where you're doing everything from how to set cameras to mammal or any animal track and sign. That's such an important skill, just being able to read animal sign and the tracks and knowing your scat, things like that.
We should send Dirt to that.
Oh, it's... Yeah, I love
Can you
tracking.
teach one of our guys a visual identification?
Of tracks?
No, just animals.
Animals. We're starting there. Okay, that's doable. And then that session culminates with we get roadkill deer and we mock up mortality sites from different predators.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Because a lot of mammals, there's a lot of work and research that involves being able to go to a mortality site or kill site and know what happened, who killed it, all that sort of stuff.
Do you guys do snowmobile recovery and stuff like that too?
We've done a winter skills course that had snowmobiling, trailering, avalanche awareness, that sort of thing.
Oh, really?
And then we're doing a trapping course coupled with a chemical immobilization. So all that drugging stuff that we were talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
Small classes, I'm guessing.
Yeah. About, 10 to 20 people. So those are a way that people can learn those skills before they're on the job. And
have you had agencies send out students ever?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we've had everything from...
You guys probably got a lot to teach when it comes to wintertime, like wintertime trapping, wintertime snowmobiling, wintertime survival.
Yeah.
It's like an arena of consequence in the mountains in the winter, man.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. Stuff can go bad.
Oh, yeah.
Quick.
Yep. Real quick. So anyway, so there's that sort of education part. And then we've also got our community science angle, which is sort of built around the knowledge that we can do all this research, but if we're not communicating it to the public, especially the communities that are going to be impacted by any possible management outcomes, if people don't understand and support it, then that's going to really decrease what you can do out there as far as management and conservation. So we want people to understand what we're doing and to sort of help facilitate that. We've got a bear coexistence program and some research going on that community scientists are helping with. So we've got kind of those three different prongs. All that is to say, if you want to learn more about that, you can go to homerange.org.
All right.
And we have an Instagram, which is homerange.wildlife. Or is there a dot? I don't know.
Home Range Wildlife, you'll find it.
Yeah.
And then are you doing, explain for the last thing, explain Trap-A-Cat and what's happening with Trap-A-Cat.
Yeah, so I alluded it because it saved our asses last year.
Okay.
And I am so grateful that this community gets it. So we've got a fundraiser and we're doing it again, A, because it's super fun, and B, because we find ourselves again with some desperate needs. People who hunt and fish know how important equipment is and how fast it can break down when you're using it hard. And we use our equipment really hard. Just as an example, because of Trap-A-Cat, bought 2 new snowmobiles last year. That meant we weren't riding 20-year-old held together with baling twine and duct tape snowmobiles, and we were using 2 new snowmobiles. And that is everything, being able to get out there in the winter. We had those for 1 month, and they each have 2,000 miles on them. So they're getting a lot of use. So we're thinking ahead about just our fleet management, and that this year alone, those sleds are going to get another 6,000 miles on them. But we've also expanded our crew. And so some of our crew is back to using the old sleds, and I am just sort of crossing my fingers every day that nothing happens there. And so we desperately need a new sled so that it's the backtracking crew, that we've got a separate crew that's in charge of the tracking, so that they're not 50 miles out and having a snowmobile issue. Not only would that be a bad day, but then that part of the study just kind of shuts down. That's how important these are. We also find ourselves happily in need of more callers. So last year going into this, we thought maybe we'll catch 1 lynx this season. Maybe we'll catch 2. Well, now we've deployed all 4 of those callers, and we know that there are more lynx that we had hoped living in our study area. And so we need more callers, because more callers, more information, it just makes the study that much more confident in what we can say. Every one of these callers, we learned so freaking much from. So we need to get more callers. Our trailer is a sad story. That thing's falling apart. I mean, it's just this basic equipment that allows us to do what we can do and gets us the information that we need, that we find ourselves needing to fundraise again. And so we're redoing Trap-A-Cat. The game here is that over the next 3 months of our trapping season, so we'll be trapping starting, well, today they're out there checking our first bait. Through March, we'll be trapping. Let's see, for every $100 that you donate to Trap-A-Cat, you get a trap set in your name, and we'll keep track of all that. You get that trap set, and then throughout our season, you'll be getting like behind the scenes content. And so every week we'll be sending out videos and stuff of just what it's like on the trap line, any cool camera footage that we get, stuff like that. And that's super fun. Then if your set catches a lynx, you win. Fame and glory. We're going to have $250 First Light gift certificate. And Stephen Rinella will announce winners on his social media. We'll announce it. That's where you'll get your fame. And so it's pretty cool. Oh, and
I'll send you a video. It'll be like, what's that service that they have where you send videos, you buy them?
Cameo.
Yeah, you know that dude that got, what's his name from New York? The congressman?
Santos.
Santos got voted out, and the next day it turns up on Cameo.
It's a good grift if you can get it.
I'll do it. I'm not on Cameo, but I'll send them a video. I'll be like, hey, thanks. Something like that.
Okay, there you go, folks.
Personalized
How cool is that?
Seth will record it.
Perfect. The other cool thing we've got this year, we've got little ink pads that we can make a paw print from the.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That you
So we do a
catch?
little- yeah.
Dude,
Yep.
That's great, man. Cool.
Which is mostly just going to look like a fuzzy mitten, but
Spencer can get that tattooed on him then.
there we go.
Dude, he's like looking for something to get tattooed on
Yeah, get a
himself
Lynx
all
paw
the
print.
time.
Yeah, so winning's fun. It makes a really cool gift. We had a lot of people getting it for their kids. And it means so much for our project. And we rely heavily on this fundraiser. And so we just appreciate everybody.
So
that
people that want to get
contributes.
involved in Trap-A-Cat, go where? Same, Home Range?
Yep, go to homerange.org, and there's a banner up on the top of the website. You just click that and it'll give you a little more information, and you can donate there, and you'll get put into the Trap-A-Cat system and start getting videos and stuff like that.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's
All right.
pretty fun.
All right. This is the 5th time you've been on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You better have some adventures for the 6th time when you come
Oh,
back.
yeah.
Okay. When you come back next year.
Yeah, let's do it.
and then we'll start talking about my little problem south of here, which might not be a problem. If you go and find that there's all it's all habitat, I'll be like, cool, I understand. I'm all for it. But if it winds up being that it was a little willy-nilly, a little reflexive, then that's an annoyance to me.
And in the meantime, we'll work on that letter.
Maybe I think willy-nilly is probably not it. Maybe
overambitious,
or just overly more cautious than you would do. Not sure.
Yeah, I like that.
Not willy-nilly though.
You don't like.
I don't think they're willy-nilly.
Okay.
No.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the sentiment.
Yeah.
You are. You love them Lynx.
Yeah. I mean, I do. I do. I just sometimes for for women in wildlife, the stereotype is, oh, they love wolves, they're obsessed with wolves, or they love lynx, and
Is that a stereotype?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Like that you're not able to look at it with like a cold meanness.
I guess a little bit. Not that anybody wants to be looking at them with a cold meanness, but I think for women sometimes that is seen as the inspiration behind it.
Like they're your little pets.
Yeah, I've had it. Yeah. I've sort of experienced that myself, where they hear, "Oh, you're working with wolves. Oh, you like." Mm-hmm. They're picturing you as a little girl drawing wolves on your binder at school and stuff. I would say that lynx are a cool animal. It's also, they're a hard animal to study, and that's intriguing to me. I love the mountains. That's where I have to be. Mm-hmm. I love the boreal forest ecosystem, and I'm fascinated by the problem of how we can conserve them in the face of increasing megafires. And I love wildlife ecology. So I just like to be clear that it's not just that I love lynx or something.
Well, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Home range.
Really appreciate it.
Wildlife. Trap-a-cat program.
Yep.
Get into it. We're going to do big announcements about who wins the Trap-a-cat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Will you still do a video if it's my kids?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll probably just tell them. I'll just tell them first. They'll be like, what? Really? Does you really got to send me a video? Brooklyn, thanks for coming down. Are you still going to make it back to school, or did you guys bag it for the day now?
I think I'll make it back.
Yeah. What class you got?
Bag it.
Early grad English.
Early what?
Early grad English.
What's that mean?
It's like my other English classes. I'm graduating early.
Why are you graduating early?
Because I don't like school.
Oh, they're cutting you loose early? How early?
I get out in 5 days.
For good?
Yep.
Really?
Whoa. That's
Congratulations.
Sweet.
Fantastic.
Oh, that's cool.
Then you go right into taxidermy. Full time.
Yep.
So you need these skulls.
Kinda, yeah.
You should have put that into your pitch. Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you're going to enter the workforce.
Yep.
Oh, congratulations. Good.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for coming down.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
406 Boneworks.
Yep.
All right. Thanks. Good luck. Keep us posted on what's going on.
Will do.
I got another skull hanging in a cherry tree in my yard.
Okay.
You'll see it by the front door if you get by there. It needs a good cleaning. I skinned it, unfortunately.
It's okay. It'll look good.
Because I'm not.
Here's a question before we leave. Will you do any skull like coyotes, beavers?
Yeah.
Pine martens,
lynx.
Yeah.
Lynx.
I'm joking. I want, when Carmen was on before, I was talking about how bad I wanted a lynx skull, and someone from Canada sent me a lynx skull. I'm trying to give it to Carmen.
Yeah.
For her collection.
Cool.
Cool.
I don't want to. It would take a very trained, astute observer to tell that from a bobcat skull.
Yeah. Yep.
Like you could just say it's whatever.
Yeah.
I sent my buddy he's a science teacher in Michigan. I sent him a huge box of skulls, and he had his kids do the, what do you call it? Like there's a
the ID.
Yeah, but there's like a thing.
A thing?
What's the term, man? You key it or something.
Oh yeah, like using a key to figure out which skull was which.
Yeah, and then we did where the ones that got it right got a prize. They were
fun.
Oh, they were phenomenal. He had like 20 some students, and like I don't know, I can't remember what it was. Tons of them got it right.
Nice.
Like a whole box of skulls by using the key. Like I would just look and be like, I don't know. It looks like a.
Well, if it's a good key, it'll walk you through it.
Yeah, no, I was impressed, man. I'm gonna keep supplying little skulls over to his students so they can check them out.
Cool.
All right. So you'll do any kind of skull.
Yep.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming down.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck with your business. I'm gonna keep sending you business.
Okay.
I'm not using Brody's services anymore. Not hacking on Brody. I just want to support. I want to support the business over here.
I might start sending them to her too.
Yeah.
But I think you should raise your prices just a little bit, also.
Yeah.
Sounds like it. But I don't know. I like that. I like that price right there,
too.
$125.
Well, she's
Now,
gotta
how
make
do you invoice? Are you going to send? You know what you could do that's really convenient. I had someone. I bought something the other day from someone that sends you a like a little scan code, and then that scan code pulls up Venmo. Have you tried something like that?
No, but I use Venmo.
You need to get this. Whatever the hell he's got, I don't know what it is. It made it so easy.
Okay.
I think she's waiting for her business manager to
Yeah.
set that up for her.
Yeah, it was just like, bam, I don't have Venmo, but I grabbed my wife's phone and opened that code up and was able to just hit a couple things and payment over. Super easy, super convenient. I don't know what it is, but trust me, there's a thing out there that makes payment a breeze.
Okay.
It's
On
probably Venmo.
No, it is. I don't know. Yeah, it is, but I don't know how they did this thing. It was great. Like I said, I don't have Venmo. Much to my wife's annoyance, I do not have Venmo. All right, thanks everybody. Talk to you soon.
It's the story of a man who's a steward of the land. Makes its own gravy, so I'll try to be brief. He's written for Field and Stream and all the other magazines. He cares more about truth than common belief. You might already know this, but he has trichinosis from eating the meat of an uncooked bear. You might already know then you can find him in Bozeman or hunting some mountain somewhere. That's Steve Rinella, he's a fine fella, spreading the love like a shaggy man's the mellow. He's not afraid to sing a cappella. His life it reads like an old-time novella. He's got some good folks under the MeatEater umbrella. He's a fine fella, that Rinella. Doom-doom-doom-doom-doom. Half a dozen books, he's a pretty good cook. Married to a finch that won't seem to moan. Loves his home state, hails from Twin Lake, Michigan, where they picked up Doe's boat. In Alaska on a skiff, or with Doug in the driftless, with his main man Giannis Putelis. On a mountain trying to score in a double with Remy Warren, or old cow saying Lady Bear smell us. Rinella, he's a fine fella, spreading the love like a shaggy man's the mellow. He's not afraid to sing a cappella. His life it reads like an old-time novella. He's got some good folks under the MeatEater umbrella. He's a fine fella, that Rinella. Doom-doop-doom-doop-doom. Wanna talk dip, it'll get him to stop fast. Hell, that's half the content of the MeatEater podcast. Glassing from a knob, trying to clear out his head. Knowing from the meat tree he could have been dead. But that's a story for another day. That's Steve Rinella, he's a fine fella, spreading the love like a shaggy man's the mellow. He's not afraid to sing a cappella. His life it reads like an old-time novella. He's got some good folks under the MeatEater umbrella. He's a fine fella, that Rinella. He's a fine fella, that Rinella.